Nicole waited until my father poured his coffee before she said it. I saw a man go into Jasmine's room last night. We were sitting in the hotel dining room on Saturday morning. My mother had a plate of toast in front of her. My father was still holding the coffee pot. Christopher sat beside me wearing the same blue shirt he'd worn to the welcome dinner. Nobody asked Nicole what she meant. My mother looked straight at me and said, "Please tell me this isn't happening." Christopher pushed his chair back. Not far, just enough to make the legs scrape against the floor. "Who was he asked. That was the first thing that felt wrong. "My name is Jasmine Cross, and I'm 33 years old. If you've ever been blamed because your family knew you were the easiest person to blame, you'll understand why I stayed so calm. Please like this video and subscribe." Nicole folded her hands beside her coffee cup. "I didn't see his face," she said. "He was wearing a dark jacket. He went into her room after midnight." "Which room?" I asked. She blinked. "Your room. I mean, which room number?" My father finally put down the coffee pot. "Jasmine, don't start picking at details." Christopher stood up. He looked angry, but he wouldn't look directly at me. That bothered me more than Nicole's accusation. "How long has this been going on?" he asked. I looked at the three of them, then at him. "Nothing has been going on." Nicole leaned back in her chair. "I knew you'd deny it." That happened at the Riverview House Hotel in Madison, Indiana. My parents were there for their anniversary gala. Both sides of the family were arriving that afternoon. There were flowers waiting downstairs, place cards stacked in the ballroom office, and a banquet balance of $12,600 tied to my payment card. I knew that because I'd organized all of it. I also knew one other thing they didn't seem to remember. The hotel couldn't charge that final balance until I approved it at 6 that evening. At that point, I still planned to approve it. To explain why, I have to go back to the previous November when my mother called me during lunch and asked if I was busy. She already knew I was busy. I'd told her that morning I had a client meeting at 1 and wouldn't be free until after work. "I've got 10 minutes, I said. "That's plenty. Your father and I have been talking." That sentence usually meant they had made a plan involving my time. Mom wanted an anniversary party, not dinner at a restaurant, not a gathering at their house. She wanted a formal gala with hotel rooms, live music, flowers, and a photographer. "Your father says it's too much," she said, "but you only get one marriage. You get one anniversary every year. You know what I mean." I did. My parents liked celebrating themselves in ways that required somebody else to handle the details. They lived outside Madison, but Mom had already chosen the Riverview House Hotel on West Main Street. She liked the river view and the old brick entrance. She'd attended a retirement dinner there and had been talking about the ballroom ever since. "Nicole thinks it's perfect," she said. "Is Nicole planning it?" There was a pause. She offered to help with the creative side. That meant no. I closed my office door. "What's the budget?" "We haven't gotten that far." "Then you haven't started planning." Mom sighed. "This is why I called you. You understand contracts. I don't work in hotels or events. I manage purchasing for a regional medical supply company. I read vendor terms, track deadlines, and notice when a number changes between one version of a quote and the next. To my family, that made me qualified to manage anything involving money, email, or a calendar. It had been that way since 2012, when I was 19 and Nicole was 23. Our parents had planned a large summer cookout for Dad's side of the family. Nicole volunteered to arrange the food, then left for a lake weekend without confirming the order. Mom called me the night before. "The restaurant says they don't have us down," she said. "I spent 2 hours calling grocery stores and sandwich shops. Dad picked up the trays the next morning. Nicole arrived in a white dress after everyone had eaten and placed 3 bowls of fruit on the table. Mom hugged her and said, 'You saved the day.' I was standing 5 feet away with mustard on my shirt. That was the first time I clearly remember understanding my job in the family. Nicole appeared. I repaired. It didn't stop when we got older. If Dad forgot to pay his vehicle registration, I found the website. If Mom ordered something from a fake online store, I disputed the charge. If Nicole promised to bring food for Thanksgiving and arrived with 2 bottles of wine, I went to the grocery store. They always thanked me in the moment. Then the next problem came, and everybody acted as if my help had no cost. Christopher noticed it before I did. We met through work in 2022. He handled commercial accounts for one of our shipping vendors. He was 31 then, and I was 29. For our first date, we had dinner at a small place near West Main Street. I arrived 11 minutes late because my father had called to ask why his television remote wasn't working. Christopher laughed when I explained. "You troubleshoot your parents' remote from another house? It was stuck under a cushion. That makes it worse." He was easy to be around then. He listened. He remembered small things. When we became engaged in 2024, he asked my parents for their blessing because he knew it mattered to me. Nicole posted our engagement picture before I did. "My baby sister is finally getting married," she wrote. She didn't mention that she had spent half the dinner talking about the wedding she thought we should have. By the time Mom called about the anniversary gala in late 2025, Christopher and I had been engaged for over a year. We were planning a small wedding for the following spring. I thought the anniversary weekend might help our families get comfortable with each other before then. That was my first mistake. I treated the gala like an investment in peace. I met my parents at the Riverview house the next Tuesday. Nicole was supposed to come, but she texted Mom that she had a headache. The hotel's event coordinator walked us through the ballroom. It had tall windows facing the river, cream walls, and round tables already set for another event. Mom touched every chair cover as if she were buying the place. Dad asked about the bar package. Mom asked if the flowers could match the gold lettering on the invitations she hadn't ordered yet. I asked what everything cost. We sat down in a small office near the ballroom. The coordinator turned her screen toward us and showed us 3 banquet packages. Dad cleared his throat when he saw the totals. "That's more than Sharon told me." Mom looked at him. "I told you it would be around this." "No, you didn't." The coordinator suddenly became very interested in her keyboard. I asked her to email me the itemized proposal. Mom smiled. "See? Jasmine knows what to do." The first proposal included the ballroom, dinner, basic linens, a small sound system, and a room for my parents. Dad said he could cover the deposit, but the hotel needed one contracting client for the final banquet account. Both of my parents looked at me. "I'm not paying for the whole thing," I said. "No one asked you to," Dad said quickly. "We'll give you the money, then put it on your card. My limit's tight this month." Mom reached across the desk and touched my wrist. "It's just to hold everything together. We'll settle it before the gala." I knew I should have said no. Instead, I asked the coordinator exactly how the payment process worked. The deposit would be charged immediately to Dad's card. My card would remain attached to the banquet file. The final balance wouldn't process automatically. The contract required me to review the closing amount and give separate authorization by 6 in the evening on gala day. "If you don't authorize it?" I asked. "We pause banquet service until another adult assumes the balance," she said. "Usually the contracting client approves it earlier, but that's the procedure." Dad gave a small laugh. "She'll approve it." Jasmine reads everything twice. He meant it as a compliment. It sounded more like an assignment. I signed electronically and saved the contract to my phone. I also flagged the email so I could find it quickly. The coordinator printed a copy for the event folder. Mom was already asking about gold napkins. For the next 2 months, the gala stayed manageable. I booked the photographer, confirmed the dinner count, and created a spreadsheet for payments. My parents transferred money when I reminded them. Not always on time, but they transferred it. Nicole offered opinions. "The invitations look cheap," she said after I emailed the first design. "They're invitations." They set the tone. "Then find another design within the same price." She sent me one that cost almost 3 times as much. When I declined it, she called Mom. Mom called me. "Could you be flexible just this once?" That phrase appeared every time Nicole heard no. I found a middle option. Nicole accepted it without thanking me. 2 days later, she posted the invitation online and let everyone praise her taste. Christopher saw the post while we were eating dinner at my apartment. "Didn't you design those?" he asked. I picked the template. She's answering people like she did it. I took another bite of pasta. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. I remember that because he sounded sincere. He put his fork down. "How much are you paying for this party?" "Nothing, once my parents reimburse everything." That wasn't my question. I opened the payment sheet on my phone. My parents were behind by $840. The amount wasn't alarming. Dad had already told me he would transfer it on Friday. I'm carrying part of it temporarily. Christopher rubbed his thumb along the edge of his glass. We're trying to pay for a wedding. I know. Do they? His tone made me defensive. They're paying me back. And Nicole? What about her? She's the one adding things. She isn't holding the account. That's exactly what I mean. I told him I had it under control. He didn't argue after that. He washed the dishes while I answered 2 hotel emails. At the time, I thought his silence meant he accepted my answer. Now I know silence can hide a decision. In January, Nicole upgraded her hotel room to a suite. I found out because the revised event estimate arrived in my email. Her room had been moved to the east wing and the cost difference had been added to the family room block. I called her. Did you change your room? It's Mom and Dad's anniversary. That doesn't answer me. The regular room was small. You haven't seen it. I looked at pictures. I asked why the upgrade had been attached to the banquet account. She went quiet for a second. The hotel must have done that. They didn't choose your suite. Jasmine, it's one weekend. Then use your card. She laughed, but I didn't. Seriously? She asked. Yes. You're making this awkward over a room? You upgraded it. You pay the difference. She called Mom before we hung up. I knew because Mom's name appeared on my screen less than a minute later. Why are you upsetting your sister? Mom asked. I'm not paying for Nicole's suite. She thought it was included. It wasn't. Couldn't you cover it and let her pay you later? No. Mom got very quiet. That was her usual response when I refused something. She made silence feel like poor behavior. I waited. Finally, she said, I suppose I'll talk to your father. You don't need to. Nicole can give the hotel her card. After the call, I emailed the coordinator and asked her to separate all suite charges from the banquet account. She replied 15 minutes later. Done. The guest provided her own card. I stared at that sentence longer than I needed to. Nicole had been able to pay all along. That was a tiny thing, but it changed something. For once, I had said no before solving the problem for her. That evening, Dad texted me. Your sister says you embarrassed her with the hotel. I typed 3 different replies. I deleted all of them. Then I opened the banquet contract on my phone and read the payment section again. The final charge still required my approval. Nobody could add a suite, a dinner, or a gold napkin to my card without that last step. I downloaded a fresh copy, placed it in a separate folder, and changed the password on my hotel account. 2 days later, Mom asked me to come over and help assemble invitations. I thought Nicole was handling those. I said, She is. We just need extra hands. When I arrived, the invitations were still in the shipping box. Mom had cleared the dining table and set out bowls of pretzels. Dad was watching basketball in the living room. Where's Nicole? I asked. She's picking up ribbon. There's no ribbon on these. Mom pulled one invitation from the box. She thought a gold band around them might look nice. The envelopes still needed addresses. The guest list had duplicates, missing zip codes, and 3 people Dad said hadn't spoken to him in years. I opened my laptop. Mom sat beside me and read names aloud. Every few minutes, Dad called from the living room with a correction. Don't invite Marvin. You told me to invite Marvin, Mom called back. I changed my mind. Why? He knows why. Nobody knew why. Nicole arrived 40 minutes later carrying 2 coffee drinks in a small paper bag. She had no ribbon. The craft store was packed, she said. She kissed Mom's cheek and gave Dad one of the coffees. Then she sat across from me. How far did you get? About halfway. She picked up an envelope. The lettering looks small. It has to fit the address. I'm just saying. Mom showed her the invitation. Nicole held it at arm's length. It needs something. We've already paid for them, I said. I didn't say replace them. She took a gold marker from her bag and drew a thin line along one edge. Mom smiled immediately. That's beautiful. Nicole drew another line. It was uneven, but Mom held it up like a piece of art. See, this is why we needed her. I kept entering addresses. At one point, Nicole reached over my laptop to take a pretzel and said, "You're so good at the boring part." She didn't say it cruelly. That was the problem. In our family, it was understood as praise. Nicole made things attractive. I made them happen. Christopher stopped by after work. We were supposed to meet with a baker about our wedding cake, and he'd agreed to pick me up at my parents' house. He came into the dining room and looked at the stacks. "I thought this was a quick visit," he said. "It was supposed to be." Nicole smiled at him. "You should know better by now." He looked at me, not her. "We have to leave in 10 minutes. "I know." Mom slid another sheet of addresses toward me. "Can you finish this page first? We have an appointment. It won't take long." Christopher stayed by the doorway with his coat on. Nicole watched him for a second, then looked back at the invitation she was decorating. "Cake tasting?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "What flavors?" "We're not sure yet." "Don't get vanilla. People always pretend they like vanilla." Christopher said, "I like vanilla." Nicole smiled at him. "That's because no one's shown you better." I noticed the line because it was slightly flirtatious. I didn't give it weight. Nicole spoke that way to waiters, co-workers, and men standing beside their wives. She liked being noticed. I finished the page, saved the file, and stood. Mom looked surprised. "You're leaving the printer like this? What's wrong with it? It keeps pulling 2 envelopes. I showed you how to adjust the tray. I don't remember." Christopher reached for my laptop bag. "Sharon, she can come back tomorrow." Mom's expression tightened. I wasn't asking her to cancel her evening. It was exactly what she was asking, but she needed me to be the one who volunteered. I nearly did. Then Christopher opened the front door and waited. I adjusted the printer tray one more time. I made Mom repeat the steps while I watched. She got it right on her second try. "There," I said. "You can do it." Mom didn't look pleased. On the drive to the bakery, Christopher kept both hands on the steering wheel. "You know your sister could have entered those addresses. She doesn't have the list." It was sitting on the table. "She doesn't know which relatives are speaking to Dad. Does anyone?" I laughed, but Christopher didn't. At the bakery, we were 20 minutes late. The woman helping us had another appointment after hours, so we had to rush. Christopher chose vanilla cake with raspberry filling. I chose lemon. We agreed to take sample boxes home and decide later. When we returned to his car, my phone showed 4 missed calls from Dad. I called him immediately. "What happened? The printer's jammed. Did Mom check the tray? She says you did something to it." I adjusted it. "Well, now it's not working." Christopher put his sample box on the dashboard. "Don't go back," he said quietly. Dad heard him. "Is that Christopher?" "Yes. Are you nearby?" I looked through the windshield. We were less than 10 minutes from the house. Christopher shook his head. I told Dad to turn off the printer and pull out the tray. He said he couldn't see anything wrong. Mom started talking in the background. Then Nicole's voice came through. "Just come fix it, Jasmine. We've been dealing with this for an hour. You've been there the whole time?" "Obviously." "Then why didn't you call the number on the printer?" Silence. Dad said, "We don't need to make this a federal issue." I looked at Christopher. His jaw was tight. "Send me a picture," I said. Dad sent one. A stack of envelopes had been loaded above the fill line. I circled the mark on the picture and sent it back. "Take out half the envelopes." Nicole said something I couldn't hear. Then the printer started. Dad laughed. "That did it. Thanks, sweetheart." The call ended. Christopher stared forward. "She was standing beside it," he said. "Yes. And they called you 4 times." "Yes." "Why did you answer?" "Because I thought something had happened. Something did happen. They wanted the printer fixed." I put my phone in my bag. He started the car, then turned it off again. "I'm not trying to insult your family," he said. "I'm trying to understand what happens after we're married." "What do you mean? Do we leave our wedding dinner because Nicole can't work a printer? That's not fair, isn't it?" I didn't answer. He rubbed his forehead. "Your parents don't call you because you're the only person who can help. They call because you always do." I knew that. I just didn't like hearing it from him. "They've done a lot for me," I said. "Like what?" The question irritated me. They're my parents. That wasn't what I asked. I turned toward the window. Christopher restarted the car. We drove to my apartment without deciding on the cake. The next morning, Mom texted a picture of the finished invitations spread across the dining table. Nicole was in the middle, smiling and holding the gold marker. Mom wrote, "Couldn't have done it without my girls." I zoomed in on the picture. My laptop was still open at the end of the table. Most of my body was outside the frame. You could see part of my sleeve near the printer. I saved the picture anyway. That's embarrassing to admit. At the time, I liked having proof I'd been included, even when I had done most of the work and barely appeared. The next problem came from the hotel room list. Mom called while I was buying groceries. "Your father's cousin and his wife are coming now. They declined last month. They changed their minds. The room block is closed. Can't you ask?" I put a carton of eggs in my cart. I can ask, I can't promise. And Nicole thinks we need a hospitality room. For what? Snacks. A place for people to visit. We already have the welcome dinner. She says people won't want to sit in their rooms afterward. Then they can use the lobby. Mom lowered her voice. "She's trying to make this special. Special costs money. Why does everything have to be about money with you?" I looked down at the grocery list in my hand. I had spent 2 months tracking their gala while trying to budget for my own wedding, because the hotel charges money. Mom exhaled into the phone. "Just ask what it would cost," I asked. The coordinator sent a revised estimate that afternoon. The hospitality room required a rental fee, food minimum, and service charge. I forwarded the amount to Mom and Nicole. Nicole replied only to me. "Can't we add it and decide later?" "No. Once they reserve the room, we owe the fee. You always assume the worst." I read the cancellation terms. She sent back a thumbs-up symbol. That usually meant she planned to ask Mom. At 6 that evening, Dad called. "Your mother says you shut down the hospitality room. I sent her the price. She thinks it would be nice. Then you can add it. I thought the hotel account was under you. The contract is. The money is supposed to come from you." He went quiet. I stood at my kitchen counter, waiting. Finally, he said, "We'll figure it out." That phrase had covered a lot of unpaid amounts in our family, before or after the gala. "Jasmine, I'm asking. You're making us sound irresponsible." I looked at the spreadsheet on my laptop. They were current at that moment, but only because I had reminded Dad about every transfer. I need a clear answer. "We can afford the party, then put the added room on your card." He sighed. "Forget it. I'll tell your mother you said no." "That isn't what I said." "It's fine." He hung up. 10 minutes later, Mom texted, "I hope you're happy." I wasn't. I felt guilty enough that I opened the hotel estimate again and tried to find room in the budget. I moved 3 costs around. I considered reducing the flowers. I checked whether the photographer's final hour could be removed. Then I stopped. Nobody had asked Nicole to find room. She had made the request and left me to either fund it or become the reason it didn't happen. I closed the estimate. The following Sunday, we had dinner at my parents' house. Nicole arrived late with a bottle of wine. Mom had made roast chicken, potatoes, and green beans. I'd brought a salad and a pie. During dinner, Mom told Nicole the hospitality room wasn't happening. Nicole looked at me. I said it was optional. You asked me to add it. I asked if we could, and I gave you the cost. She cut a potato in half. You don't have to talk to me like I'm an employee. Dad said, "Let's have one peaceful meal." That was directed at me. Christopher had come with me. He set down his fork. "She answered a question," he said. Mom gave him a careful smile. "We know Jasmine means well." It was the kind of sentence that made a reasonable person sound difficult. I reached for my water. Nicole leaned toward Christopher. "You're going to have to teach her how to relax once you're married." He looked at her. "I don't think Jasmine's the tense person here." Nicole's smile slipped. Only for a second. Mom changed the subject to our wedding. "Have you chosen the cake?" "Not yet," I said. Christopher said, "We like different ones." Nicole laughed. "That sounds serious." "It's cake," I said. Mom asked about guest numbers. Dad asked whether the bar would be open. For several minutes, they all seemed interested. I let myself imagine our wedding with both families in one room, everybody behaving, nobody needing me to fix something. Then Mom said, "Of course, we can't focus on that until the anniversary is over." The conversation moved back to the gala. After dinner, I was loading plates into the dishwasher when Dad came into the kitchen. "Your mother's stressed," he said. "So am I. She just wants everyone to have a good time. I want that too." He leaned against the counter. "You know Nicole isn't good with details. She could learn." "Maybe. But you're better at this. That doesn't mean it belongs to me." He looked toward the dining room to make sure Mom couldn't hear. "We depend on you." There it was. Not gratitude. Dependence. I closed the dishwasher. "What happens if I'm not available?" He smiled like I'd made a joke. "You're always available." I looked at him for a long second. The worst part was that he believed it because I had taught him to. Before I left, I took the printed guest list from the dining table and handed it to Nicole. "Mom needs the meal choices confirmed by Friday," I said. Nicole frowned. "Okay, you volunteered to manage the guests. I said I'd help. This is the help." She looked at Mom, waiting. Mom opened her mouth. I spoke first. "The hotel needs one answer. Nicole has the list." Dad glanced at the papers in her hand. "It doesn't look hard," he said. Nicole gave him a look, but she kept the list. On Friday afternoon, an email arrived from her with every meal choice filled in. 2 names were misspelled, but the count was correct. For the first time since planning began, the hotel received something I hadn't completed. I thanked her and forwarded it without fixing the names. Then I opened my own wedding folder. Christopher had left 3 messages about the cake samples and one about a meeting with our officiant. I had answered none of them. I called him. "Are you free tonight?" I asked. "That depends." "On what? Whether we're talking about our wedding or your parents' party?" I looked at the banquet folder on my screen. Our wedding. He was quiet, then said, "I'll come over at 7. I moved the gala files into a closed folder before he arrived. For the rest of the afternoon, whenever my family called, I let the phone ring. At 7, Christopher knocked with both cake boxes under one arm. He had also brought takeout from a Thai restaurant near his apartment. We spread everything across my kitchen counter and kept our phones in the bedroom. "We're deciding tonight," he said. "The entire wedding?" "The cake. Let's be realistic. We tried both samples again. The raspberry filling had soaked into the vanilla cake and made it better than I remembered. The lemon was still my favorite. We could do 1 layer of each," I said. Christopher nodded. "That's suspiciously reasonable. I'm full of surprises. I'd like to meet more of them." He smiled when he said it, but there was something underneath. I put down my fork. "What does that mean?" "It means I miss you. I'm sitting right here." "You know what I mean." I did. The gala had entered every part of our week. I took hotel calls during dinner. I checked guest counts while we watched television. I had postponed the officiant meeting twice because Mom needed help with table assignments. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't want another apology. What do you want?" "I want to know this ends after the anniversary." "It does." He leaned against the counter. "Your parents are going to find something else. Then I'll say no. You said that about the suite. Then you spent 3 days dealing with the fallout, but I didn't pay for it, that's true." I appreciated that he admitted it. At the time, I still believed our arguments were evidence of honesty. I thought couples who discussed hard things were safe from the people who avoided them. We chose both cake flavors. I emailed the bakery while Christopher scheduled the officiant meeting for the following Wednesday. Before he left, he picked up my phone from the bedroom. "You have 9 missed calls." "Who from?" "Your mom, mostly." I looked at the screen. There were also 2 messages from Nicole. The first said, "Mom's freaking out." The second said, "Please call before she makes Dad cancel everything." I read them twice. Christopher watched my face. "Are you going to call?" "Not tonight." He kissed my forehead. "Good." Mom called again at 7 the next morning. I was brushing my teeth. I let it ring, finished getting ready, and called her from my car. "What happened?" "The florist can't do the tall centerpieces. We didn't order tall centerpieces. Nicole found pictures." I closed my eyes. Is that why you called 9 times? I didn't know you were ignoring me. I was busy. You could have sent a message. So could you. She gave a small, offended sound. The florist says we have to decide by noon. Decide what? Whether we want the larger arrangements. How much are they? I don't have that in front of me. Then the answer is no. Could you call her? I'm driving to work. It'll take 5 minutes. Send me the quote. Mom went quiet. Nicole has it. Then Nicole can send it. I ended the call before she could give me another assignment. The quote arrived 20 minutes later. The larger centerpieces added nearly $2,000 after delivery and setup. I replied to both of them. We're keeping the original flowers. Mom sent, call me. Nicole sent nothing. Around 10, the hotel coordinator called my office. I wanted to confirm the ballroom lighting change, she said. What lighting change? There was a pause. The amber uplighting for the walls. Nicole requested it yesterday. I didn't approve that. She said you had. I sat back in my chair. Did she say I approved the price? She said the family had discussed it and you wanted it added. How much? $875. I wrote the amount on a sticky note. Has anything else been requested? The coordinator hesitated. She wasn't hiding anything. She was trying to figure out how to answer without criticizing a guest. There have been several inquiries. From Nicole? Some from Nicole and some from your mother. Were any of them added? The lighting is on hold. Your mother asked about extending the bar service, but we haven't changed it. There was also a question about a champagne display. A display? A wall with individual glasses. I pictured my father's face when he had seen the original estimate. Please don't add anything unless I confirm it in writing. I can place that instruction on the account. Can you also send me a list of every requested change? I can send the items we noted. She emailed it within half an hour. The list had 7 requests: tall centerpieces, ballroom lighting, a champagne display, extended bar service, a late-night snack station, upgraded linens, a second room for hair and makeup. None had been approved. Together, they would have added several $1,000s. I called the coordinator back. Who asked for the hair and makeup room? Nicole. She already has a suite. That's what the front desk explained. What did she say? She said her suite was private. That didn't make sense. It was supposed to be a family anniversary gala, not Nicole's event. I scrolled down the notes. One line read, guest asked whether contracting client receives itemized additions or final total only. Who asked about the itemized charges? I said. The coordinator checked. Nicole did. When? Yesterday afternoon. My office felt very still. What did you tell her? That all revisions go to you. What did she say after that? She said she was planning a surprise and didn't want to ruin it. I thanked her and ended the call. For several minutes, I looked at that line. Nicole could be careless. She could be selfish. I was used to both. Asking whether I would see the individual charges was different. She knew the money wasn't hers. She wanted to know whether I would notice. I called her during lunch. She answered with, "Are we done being difficult? Did you ask the hotel about ballroom lighting? Mom wants the room to feel warm. That isn't what I asked." "Yes," I asked. "Why did you tell them I approved it?" I said you knew about it. I didn't. We talked about lighting. When? At dinner. You said the hotel ballroom looked flat in pictures. That was the whole conversation. She sighed. Fine, don't add it. Did you ask whether I'd see itemized charges? There was a short pause. I don't remember. The hotel remembers. I was asking how the invoice works. You didn't ask me because every question turns into this. Into what? A financial review. It's attached to my card. You're getting reimbursed. That doesn't make it your card. Her voice changed then. It lost the bored quality. Nobody's trying to steal from you, Jasmine. I didn't say anyone was. You're acting like it. I looked at the note beside my keyboard. Why did you ask about the charges? I told you, I don't remember. That isn't an answer. Then I guess you won't get one. She hung up. I didn't call back. Instead, I emailed the hotel. I asked them to require written approval from my email address before changing the banquet package. I also asked that any room expenses stay with the registered guest. The coordinator confirmed both instructions. My deliberate move worked sooner than I expected. That afternoon, Nicole tried to add the ballroom lighting again. The hotel refused. She called me at 4. "Did you lock the event account?" "I put approval rules on it." "You made me look ridiculous. You tried to add something after I said no. Mom told me to." "Then Mom can pay for it separately. She shouldn't have to worry about individual charges during her anniversary." "Neither should I." Nicole laughed once. "You've become very controlling." I kept my voice even. "I'm controlling my card." She hung up again. Mom called next. I let it ring while I finished an email for work. Then I answered. "Why can't Nicole speak to the hotel?" she asked. "She can speak to them. She can't change my contract. It's our party." "Then why isn't it your card?" Mom went silent. I wished I hadn't asked, not because it was unfair, but because I still wanted the gala to feel like something I was giving them. I wanted them to look around that ballroom and understand I had done it out of love. That mattered to me more than I wanted to admit. Dad came on the line. "What exactly did you do?" "I required written approval for changes. That seems excessive." Nicole told them I approved almost $900 in lighting. She got ahead of herself. She also asked if I'd see the charges. She was probably planning a surprise. That was the same explanation Nicole had given the hotel. What surprise? How would I know? Then why are you defending it? He lowered his voice. Your mother has been looking forward to this for months. Please don't turn it into a fight. I'm trying to keep it within the budget. We can cover the party, then send the amount you're behind. He paused. They were behind again. I hadn't checked that morning. How much? He asked. You don't know? I've had other things going on. I opened the spreadsheet. The florist deposit and photographer payment had increased the difference. $1,320. That can't be right. I'll send the list. Your mother thought we were current. I've sent both of you every receipt. He exhaled. I'll look tonight. Please transfer it by Friday. Why Friday? Final guest numbers are due next week. I'm not approving more expenses while you owe me for the current ones. His voice hardened slightly. You don't need to talk to me like I'm one of your vendors. I almost apologized. Instead, I said, Friday. He ended the call. The transfer arrived Thursday morning. That was the useful part. The number had forced action. I no longer had to wonder whether they could repay me. They could. They simply waited until I made waiting uncomfortable. The cost was what happened next. Mom sent me a revised guest list with 12 additional names. These people already made travel plans, she said when I called. They weren't invited. Your father mentioned the gala to them. Mentioning a party isn't an invitation. They took it as one. Where are they staying? They're arranging that themselves. And their dinners? Mom lowered her voice. It would be embarrassing to turn them away. Each added dinner increased the banquet total. The room also needed another table, more linens, and a new seating plan. Dad just paid what he owed, I said. And he'll pay this too. Did he agree to that? He knows they're coming. That wasn't the same answer. I called Dad. He confirmed 6 of the names. He didn't recognize the other 6. Those must be your mother's people, he said. Mom said you invited them. I may have mentioned it. I pinched the bridge of my nose. The final count is due next Wednesday. I need one guest list signed off by both of you. Signed off? Confirmed. No more additions after that. He laughed. You really do make everything sound official. It is official. There's a contract. I trust you. Again, it sounded like praise. Again, it meant he didn't intend to read anything. I sent the revised cost to both of them. Dad transferred the extra dinner amount the next day. Then Mom called and asked me to redo the seating chart. I said no. There was a long silence. What do you mean, no? I mean, you added the guests. You and Dad can place them. I don't know who gets along, neither do I. You always handle this. I'm not handling it this time. She told me she would ask Nicole. I expected another call within an hour. It didn't come. That evening, Nicole emailed a new seating chart. It wasn't perfect, but every name had a seat. She had placed 2 feuding cousins at neighboring tables, and Dad's brother was too close to the speakers. Those were fixable problems. I didn't fix them. I sent the chart to Mom and Dad with one sentence: "Please review and confirm by Wednesday." Mom replied, "We will." For the next 3 days, no one asked me to move a chair. On Wednesday morning, both parents confirmed the list. I forwarded it to the hotel. The coordinator replied that the count was locked and the ballroom file was current. Then she added one more sentence: "Please remember that final authorization is still required by 6 in the evening on event day." I read it at my desk. My family knew the account was under my name. They knew I reviewed the charges. But none of them had asked what happened if I didn't approve them. I started to forward the reminder to my parents. Then I stopped. They had received the contract months earlier. They could read it if they wanted. I moved the email into the folder I had created and left the authorization detail where it was. The following Wednesday, Christopher and I met with our officiant at a coffee shop near the river. I arrived first. That was unusual enough that Christopher checked his watch when he walked in. "You're early. I can be early. You can. You usually get a family emergency first." I didn't argue. We spent an hour discussing the ceremony. We wanted it short. We didn't want personalized vows. Christopher said he would probably lose his place if he had to read more than 3 sentences in front of everyone. Our officiant asked what we valued most about each other. Christopher went first. Jasmine does what she says she'll do. I looked at him. He added, "always." It was kind, but it made me uncomfortable. Dependability had become the only thing people mentioned when they described me. When it was my turn, I said, "Christopher notices when someone needs help." He smiled. I believed that about him. Afterward, we walked along the river for a few minutes. The air was cold and Christopher kept his hands in his coat pockets. "Did your parents confirm the seating chart?" he asked. "Yes." "Did the hotel survive?" "Barely." He smiled, then became serious. "What happens this weekend? We get through the gala. I mean with us." I stopped walking. "What's wrong with us? You tell me. We've been busy. You've been busy. I've been waiting. For one event, for your family." I looked toward the water. "I thought you wanted to be part of my family. I want to be part of your life. That's the same thing." "No, Jasmine, it isn't." A couple walked past us and we stepped closer to the railing. Christopher lowered his voice. "I'm not asking you to abandon them. I'm asking whether they'll always get the first answer. I've said no to them several times, and every time you spend days proving you had the right to say it. That landed because it was true." I pulled my coat tighter. "Can we get through the weekend before deciding our whole future beside the river? I'm not trying to decide it here. It sounds like you are." He looked away. "I just need to know you actually want to marry me. I'm planning a wedding with you. You plan things for everyone." I didn't know how to answer that without becoming angry. He reached for my hand. "I'm not attacking you. It feels like it." We walked back to our cars without resolving anything. The gala weekend began on Friday afternoon. I arrived at the Riverview House Hotel shortly after 3. The brick entrance faced West Main Street. Through the lobby windows, I could see a narrow section of the river behind the building. The front desk gave me a room in the east wing. Nicole's suite was farther down the same corridor. My room was close to the stairs. Hers was near the turn toward the elevator. A dark camera dome was mounted above that turn. I noticed it because I noticed practical things. I checked where the exits were. I looked at the room number twice. Then I went downstairs to meet the event coordinator. She had the banquet folder open on a table near the ballroom. "The account is current," she said. "No pending changes." "None. Nothing from my mother or sister?" They asked questions. "We followed your instruction." She showed me the final event sheet. The lighting stayed with the basic package. The original centerpieces were scheduled. The bar ended at the agreed time. Nicole's suite was listed separately with her own card. My boundary had held. I signed the guest count, but not the final charge authorization. That remained due the next evening at 6. The coordinator pointed to the line. "You can approve from your phone or come to the office. I'll come here." She made a note. The ballroom staff had started arranging tables. I checked the seating chart against the room layout. 2 tables were closer to the speakers than Nicole had planned, but everyone had a place. I left them alone. Mom called before I reached the elevator. The welcome bags are wrong. She was in her hotel room with Dad. 10 canvas bags were spread across the bed. Each one contained bottled water, crackers, and a printed schedule. What's wrong with them? Some have 2 waters, some have 1. Then move the bottles. The schedule also says breakfast starts at 7. It does. Nicole thought it was 7:30. The restaurant opens at 7. Mom held the phone away from her and spoke to someone in the room. Then she came back. Could you print corrected schedules? No, it's 1 line. It's also correct. Dad called from behind her. Leave the schedules. Mom ignored him. People will be confused. About breakfast opening earlier. She pressed her lips together. I picked up one of the bags. Who assembled these? Nicole. Then ask Nicole to make the match. She's getting ready. So am I. Mom stared at me. I put the bag back on the bed and left. My hands shook slightly in the hallway. Saying no still felt like I had left something dangerous unattended. I went to my room, hung my dress in the closet, and took a shower. For the first time in months, I got ready without answering a family call. When I came downstairs at 6, the bags were lined up on a table near the welcome dinner. Each one had 2 bottles of water. Nicole stood behind the table wearing a green dress and checking names against the guest list. You fixed them, I said. She didn't look up. It wasn't hard. I know. Her eyes moved to mine. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then she said, Mom was nearly in tears because you walked out. Mom wasn't nearly in tears. You didn't see her after you left. I was there. She feels like you're punishing her. For asking Nicole to finish Nicole's task? Nicole set down her pen. You know she depends on you. So does everyone keep telling me. Maybe that should mean something. It means you could have done this the first time. She looked at the bags. I did it now. Yes. I meant it as acknowledgement. She heard it as criticism. She stepped closer. You like being the capable one until someone expects you to be capable. That isn't true, isn't it? A group of relatives entered the lobby. Nicole smiled before they reached us. There you are, she said, opening her arms. They hugged her. She handed out the first 2 welcome bags and told them she had put everything together. I didn't correct her. The welcome dinner was held in a smaller room beside the ballroom. It was casual compared with the gala. There were sandwiches, salads, and a cash bar. Christopher arrived around 7. He had worked most of the day and driven straight to Madison. I met him near the entrance. You made it. I said I would. He kissed my cheek. I heard the coldness in his answer. Can we not do this tonight? I asked quietly. Do what? Act like we're in a fight. Are we not? Mom approached before I could answer. Christopher, we're so glad you're here. She hugged him and took his coat. Then she said, maybe you can get Jasmine to relax. He gave me a quick look. I'm not in charge of her. Mom laughed as if he had made a joke. Nicole came over with 2 drinks. One for the future brother-in-law, she said. She handed Christopher a beer. He looked surprised. How did you know what I wanted? You ordered the same thing at dinner last month. I didn't remember that dinner. Christopher smiled. Good memory. Nicole glanced at me. I noticed things. We joined my parents at a table near the windows. For the first half hour, everything was easy. Dad told a story about getting lost on the way to his first date with Mom. Mom corrected every street name. People laughed. I watched them and felt the reason I had agreed to the gala in the first place. My parents looked happy. Nicole was helping. Christopher sat beside me. For a while, it appeared possible that I had worried too much. Then Dad asked whether I had approved the final hotel payment. Tomorrow at 6, I said. Mom frowned. Why wait? Because the event is tomorrow. What if there's a problem? Then we fix it before I approve the charge. Nicole took a sip of wine. Jasmine has the whole hotel under lockdown. Christopher looked at her. What does that mean? She made them stop taking requests from anyone but her. because requests were being added to my account. Mom leaned toward me. "Could we not discuss money tonight?" Dad asked. "I asked if the hotel was handled," Dad said. "It is." Nicole smiled at Christopher. "She loves that word." "What word?" he asked. "Handled." He looked down at his beer. I knew the conversation had shifted, but I didn't know why. A few minutes later, Mom asked me to check whether the photographer knew which relatives needed formal pictures before dinner. "The schedule is in the folder," I said. "Could you make sure?" "I already confirmed it." Mom kept looking at me. I stood. Christopher touched my wrist. "Sit down. It'll take a minute." "You said it was confirmed." "It is." "Then sit." His voice was quiet, but Nicole heard. Mom looked embarrassed. "I didn't mean to cause an issue." "You didn't," I said. I sat back down. The table remained uncomfortable for several minutes. Then Nicole asked Christopher about work. He answered. She asked about the drive. He answered that too. I listened to them talk across me. When Christopher went to the bar, Nicole followed a minute later. They stood near the door with their backs partly turned toward us. Nicole said something. Christopher shook his head. She touched his arm, then moved her hand away. I watched long enough that Dad noticed. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes." Nicole returned alone. "What were you talking about?" I asked. She looked toward the bar. "Your wedding? What about it?" "Christopher seemed stressed. He had a long day." "That's not what he said." I waited. Nicole folded her napkin. "He feels like there isn't room for him." My face became hot. "He told you that?" I asked if he was okay. "And he discussed our relationship with you? Don't make it strange." "I'm not. He's going to be family." I was being nice. Christopher returned with another beer. I looked at him. "What did you tell Nicole?" He glanced at her, then at me. "That I'm tired." "She says you talked about us." Nicole interrupted. "I said he seemed stressed. That's all." "That isn't all you said to me." Christopher put down his glass. "Can we do this somewhere else?" Mom heard that. "What's going on?" "Nothing," I said. Nicole gave me a small, patient smile. "See? Handled." I stood. "I'm going upstairs." Christopher followed me into the lobby. Jasmine. I kept walking until we were away from the dinner room. "What did you tell her?" She asked a question. "What question?" "Whether I thought you actually wanted the wedding?" I stared at him. Why would she ask that? Probably because we were snapping at each other. "And what did you say?" "That I didn't know." The lobby noise seemed to fade. "You don't know if I want to marry you? I don't know if you want a marriage or another event you can manage." I stepped back. "That's cruel. I'm trying to be honest. With Nicole? With you." After talking to Nicole. He looked toward the dinner room. "She listens. So do I. Only when no one in your family needs something." I reached into my bag and took out his room key. I had collected it at check-in because he was arriving late. I held it out. "Your room is on the 3rd floor." He took the key. "Where are you going?" "To bed. It's not even 10. I'm tired, too." He looked like he wanted to say something else. Instead, he put the key in his pocket. I went upstairs alone. 20 minutes later, Mom sent a message asking where the extra place cards were. I told her they were in the ballroom office. She replied, "Can you bring them down?" I turned my phone face down. A few minutes later, another message appeared. "Found them." I changed into a t-shirt and washed off my makeup. Through the wall, I could hear water running in the next room. At 11, Christopher texted. "I need some air. We'll talk tomorrow." I wrote, "Okay." Nicole didn't return to her suite while I was awake. I knew because every time the East Wing elevator opened, I heard its bell through my door. I told myself she was downstairs helping Mom. Then I put my phone on the nightstand, locked my door, and went to sleep with the gala authorization still waiting in my email. At 6:30, the alarm on my phone went off. Christopher hadn't answered my last message. I showered, dressed, and checked the banquet email. There were no new charges. Mom asked me to meet everyone for breakfast at 8. I reached the dining room a few minutes early. Nicole was already there. Her hair was tied back and she wore the same gold earrings from the night before. "Did you sleep?" she asked. "Yes." She stirred her coffee. Christopher seemed upset when he left. "Where did he go? You should ask him." "I did. He said he needed air." Nicole looked toward the entrance. "He deserves someone who makes him feel wanted." I pulled out a chair. "What did you say to him last night?" "I listened. That isn't what I asked." She took a sip of coffee. "Maybe you should spend less time questioning me and more time talking to your fiancé." Mom and Dad arrived before I could answer. Christopher came in behind them. His hair was damp like he had showered recently. He sat beside me but didn't kiss me or touch my shoulder. Dad poured coffee. Then Nicole made her accusation. By the time she finished, all four of them were looking at me as if I owed them an explanation. I asked her which corridor she had been standing in. "The East Wing," she said. "Where exactly?" "Near the elevator." "What time?" "A little after midnight." I looked at Christopher. "Where were you?" He folded his arms. "Don't turn this around on me. I asked where you were. I told you last night I needed air." "Until when?" He pushed his chair farther from the table. "You're unbelievable." His anger seemed rehearsed. It came at the right volume with the right face, but it didn't answer anything. Mom reached for his hand. "Christopher, I'm so sorry." I watched her comfort him. She hadn't asked me a single question. Nicole said, "The man had a dark jacket and a baseball cap." "Which direction did he come from?" I asked. She pointed toward the dining room entrance as if it were the hallway. "From the elevator. My room is closer to the stairs." "I know where your room is. Did you see him knock?" "Yes." "Did you see me open the door?" Nicole hesitated. "I saw the door open." "From where?" "Jasmine, stop," Dad said. "I'm asking what she saw." "She saw enough," Mom said. Nicole's eyes stayed on mine. "You had another man in your hotel room." "I don't know what else you want me to say." There was the line she wanted everyone to remember. Christopher stood. "I can't do this right now." I looked at him. "Sit down." He stared at me. I had never spoken to him that way. "Please," I added. "If you're accusing me, stay for my answer." He sat, but only on the edge of the chair. "I was alone in my room," I said. "No man came inside." Nicole shook her head. Mom said, "Could you at least admit how this looks? It looks like Nicole is lying." "Why would she do that?" Dad asked. "I don't know yet." Nicole's face changed. Not much. Her mouth tightened and her shoulders went back. "You think I made it up?" "Yes." "Then ask the hotel." The table went quiet. She leaned toward me. "They have cameras. Ask them to show you." Christopher looked at her. It was a quick look. If I had turned toward him a second later, I would have missed it. At the time, I thought he was surprised by her confidence. Mom touched Nicole's arm. "You don't have to prove anything." "I want to," Nicole said. "I'm tired of Jasmine acting like I'm irresponsible." "This isn't about the gala," I said. "It's always about the gala with you." "No, you accused me of bringing a man into my room, and now you're calling me a liar." "Because you're lying." Dad lowered his voice. "People are having breakfast 10 feet away." I looked around. 2 relatives had entered the dining room and were choosing food from the buffet. They hadn't noticed us yet. Mom leaned close to me. "Whatever happened, we need to keep this private." "Nothing happened." "Fine." "But Christopher is hurt." I looked at him. He was staring down at the table. "Christopher knows whether he believes me." Mom whispered, "You need to apologize to him." "For what?" "For putting him in this position." I was asleep. Nicole made a soft sound. I turned to her. "You asked for the cameras. Let's go." Her face stayed composed. "Now?" "Yes." Dad frowned. "The hotel has a gala to prepare. So do I. This won't improve with time." Christopher stood again. "I have nothing to say until I see it." That sentence told me he intended to come. I took my phone and left the dining room. Nicole followed. My parents followed her. Christopher came last. At the front desk, I asked for the operations manager. The woman working there asked what the issue involved. A guest made a complaint about someone entering a room in the East Wing, I said. We need to know whether the corridor recording can be reviewed. Nicole stepped forward. I witnessed it. The woman looked between us. Are you reporting a safety issue? Nicole glanced at Dad. No, it's personal. The woman remained polite. I'll contact the manager. We waited in the lobby. Mom pulled me aside. You're making this bigger than it needs to be. I didn't ask Nicole to accuse me. You don't have to drag hotel staff into family business. She demanded the recording. She's emotional. Nicole was sitting 10 feet away, checking her phone. She didn't look emotional. What do you want me to do? I asked. Mom lowered her voice further. Talk to Christopher. Tell him you're sorry. Whatever happened, you can work through it. Why would I apologize for something I didn't do? To calm things down. There it was again. The truth mattered less than whether I could restore the room. I'm not apologizing. Mom looked toward the ballroom entrance. Relatives are arriving today. I know. We can't have everyone talking about a broken engagement during our anniversary. Then don't tell them. You know how Nicole gets when she's upset. I looked at my sister. Nicole had brought the accusation to breakfast. Now I was responsible for keeping her quiet. Dad joined us. Your mother's right. Handle this after the gala. Nicole asked for the camera. Dad glanced at her. She was proving a point. So am I. The operations manager came into the lobby carrying a tablet. He was a middle-aged man in a gray suit. He asked us to move to a seating area away from the front desk. I explained the complaint. He listened without interrupting. Then he asked Nicole for the approximate time and location. Between midnight and 12:30, she said. East Wing near the elevator. Which room was involved? She gave him my room number. He entered it into the tablet. I can confirm we have a corridor camera in that area, he said. The recording is held on our secure system. Can we view it? I asked. Not at the front desk. I need to verify the registered guests involved and review the footage first. Nicole crossed her arms. I'm the witness. He nodded. I understand. I'll need the names of everyone included in the complaint. She gave him hers. I gave him mine. Christopher said, I'm her fiancé. The manager looked at him. Are you a registered guest? Yes. He asked for Christopher's room number and added it. Mom said, we're her parents. The manager looked at me. Do you want them present? Before I answered, Nicole said, they were there when I told him. I looked at the four of them. Yes, all five of us. The manager checked his schedule. I can arrange a private review at 3 this afternoon. I'll preserve the relevant recording until then. That was the first useful result. The footage existed. The time window was clear. The hotel had taken custody of the question. Nicole couldn't change the corridor or the hour later. Thank you, I said. The manager looked at each of us. This review is limited to the registered guests involved. No recording, photographs, or additional viewers. That's fine, Nicole said quickly. He left. My parents stared at me. Christopher walked toward the elevator. I followed him. We need to talk before 3. He pressed the button. I don't think that's a good idea. Why? Because you'll try to explain. There's nothing to explain. The elevator arrived. The doors opened, but he didn't step inside. You always have an answer, he said. This isn't a disagreement about a hotel bill. No, it isn't. Then look at me and tell me you believe Nicole. He looked at the floor indicator. I believe she saw something. What? A man going into your room. You believe I cheated on you? His face tightened. I don't know what to believe. The elevator doors started to close. He stopped them with one hand. Where were you after you left the dinner? I asked. Walking. For more than 2 hours? I didn't check the time. Where did you walk? Outside. It was cold. I know. The doors started closing again. He stepped inside. We'll talk after the review. I watched the elevator take him upstairs. Nicole was still near the seating area. She had stopped looking at her phone. She knew I had questioned him. I went to the ballroom office and opened the event folder. The staff had started setting glasses on the tables. The florist would arrive at noon. The photographer was due at 4. My phone rang twice. Mom, then Dad. I ignored both calls. I checked the final banquet sheet again. Nothing had changed. The authorization line was blank. At 9:30, Mom came into the office. Are you really going to let this interfere with tonight? I'm going to the camera review at 3. And after that? That depends on what it shows. She closed the door. If it shows a man, can you please deal with Christopher privately? There was no man. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Mom sat across from me. Nicole has no reason to lie. She had no reason to ask whether I'd see itemized hotel charges either. Her eyes shifted. What are you talking about? She tried to add ballroom lighting to my account. When the hotel stopped her, she tried again. That has nothing to do with this. It tells me she'll say I approved something when I didn't. Mom stood. You've always been hard on her. I stared at her. Name one time. She picked up her purse. I'm not doing this with you. You brought it up. You know what I mean. She left without answering. I stayed in the ballroom office for another hour. I confirmed the flowers, checked the photographer's arrival, and made sure the seating chart matched the locked count. At 11, the coordinator came in with a revised schedule. Your mother asked if dinner could be delayed tonight, she said. Why? She said there was a family matter. I looked at the page. No delay. Keep the schedule. The coordinator nodded. Then we need your final authorization by 6. I know. She left the schedule on the table. The gala was still moving toward me like an obligation I had already accepted. The review at 3 gave me a way to clear my name, but it also created a deadline inside a deadline. By 6, the hotel would need my decision. By then, Christopher would either know Nicole had lied or I would learn why he was afraid of the recording. At 11:15, the hotel coordinator returned. Nicole is asking about extending her suite through Sunday night. I looked up from the schedule. Her reservation ends Sunday morning. That's what we have. Did she provide a card for the extra night? She asked us to transfer it to the banquet account. No. The coordinator nodded. I told the front desk not to make the change. Thank you. She remained by the desk. There was also a question about a farewell brunch tomorrow. From Nicole? Your mother. I set down my pen. What kind of brunch? Private dining for 12 people. She said it might be added after tonight's event. I hadn't heard anything about a Sunday brunch. Did she give you a guest list? Not yet. Don't reserve it. I won't. After she left, I called Mom. She answered on the second ring. I'm with the florist, she said. Why did you ask the hotel about a brunch? It's just immediate family. You didn't tell me. I'm telling you now. The hotel needs payment. We thought it could go with everything else. Who is we? Your father and me. Did you promise Nicole I would pay for it? Mom lowered her voice. She's staying an extra night. I know. She tried to put that on my account, too. She has a long drive. She lives less than 2 hours away. She doesn't want to leave after brunch. Then she can pay for another night. Mom was silent. What else did you promise her? I asked. Nothing. Mom. It wasn't a promise. We were discussing options. What options? The brunch, her room, maybe room service tomorrow evening if she stays. That's 3 things. You don't have to count everything. The hotel does. She sighed. You're making it sound like we planned this behind your back. You did. We thought there would be money left in the event budget. There is no extra event budget. Your father transferred more yesterday for the added guests. Well, after tonight, we can all sit down and settle it. That means you expected me to pay first, temporarily. I stood and walked to the ballroom door. Staff members were placing folded napkins around the tables. Did you tell Nicole I agreed? I told her we'd take care of it. Who is we? My mother didn't answer. I left the office and walked toward the elevators. Nicole's suite was at the end of the east wing. I knocked twice. She opened the door wearing a hotel robe. Her makeup was half finished. What? She asked. Did Mom tell you I would cover Sunday? She glanced over her shoulder. Mom was sitting near the window with a makeup bag open beside her. "I told you I was with the florist," Mom said. "You're not. She was here earlier." I stepped into the suite. Garment bags hung from the closet door. Shoes covered one chair. There were 2 room service trays near the wall. Nicole closed the door. "Why are you worried about Sunday right now?" she asked. "Because you tried to move another night onto my account. I asked if they could. You already have a card on the room. And they can use it if they have to." "If they have to?" Mom stood. "Please lower your voices." Neither of us had raised one. I looked at Nicole. "What did Mom promise you?" She picked up a makeup brush. "She said you were handling the weekend." "The gala. The weekend. The contract is for the gala." "That's not what she said." Mom stepped between us. I said Jasmine was coordinating everything. Nicole looked at her. "You said she'd cover the brunch and we'd sort it out later." Mom's face changed. It was a small change. Her eyes moved toward me, then away. There was the answer. "Did she also say I'd cover your room?" I asked. Nicole turned back to the mirror. "She said there was room in the budget." "There isn't." "Well, that's between you and her." "No, it's between you and me because you're trying to use my card." Nicole put down the brush. "Your card isn't special. It is when the charge is mine. You'll be reimbursed." "By whom?" "Mom and Dad," Mom said. "We can talk about this tomorrow." "No. Who is reimbursing me?" She picked up her phone. "Your father will." "Does he know?" "Of course he knows." I called him. Mom reached for my hand. "Don't bother him right now." I moved away. Dad answered with music in the background. "Everything okay? Did you agree to pay for Nicole's extra night and a brunch tomorrow?" He didn't respond immediately. "Your mother mentioned something. Did you agree?" I said we'd see what was left. "Left where?" "In the budget. There is nothing left. That can't be right." "You've seen every receipt. I'm not in front of them now." "Mom told Nicole I would cover it." He exhaled. "Then cover it and I'll look at everything next week." I looked at Mom. She watched me carefully. "No," I said. Dad's voice sharpened. "Jasmine, this is not the time. It became the time when you promised my money. Nobody promised your money." Nicole spoke from behind me. "Mom did." Dad heard her. "What's she doing there?" "We're in her suite." "Why?" "Because she tried to charge another night to the banquet account." He became quiet, then he said, "Can everyone please get through tonight?" "That isn't an answer. We have relatives downstairs." "I know. Your mother and I can't deal with hotel bills while we're getting dressed. You found time to create them." Mom took the phone from my hand. "Alan, I'll call you back." She ended the call and placed my phone on the table. "You don't speak to your father that way." "What way?" "Like he's done something wrong. He told Nicole I would pay without asking me. He assumed you'd help. He assumed I wouldn't say no." Nicole crossed her arms. "This is exactly why no one asks you directly." I turned toward her. "Because I might answer?" "Because you make people feel bad. You tried to hide charges from me. I asked one question at the hotel. You told them I approved lighting. I said we discussed it. You lied." Mom stepped closer. "Stop using that word. What word should I use? This is your sister." "That isn't an answer either." Mom looked at the closed suite door. "I need you to think about what happens if people hear this." I almost laughed. "You're worried they'll hear about brunch?" "I'm worried they'll hear that you and Christopher are having problems. I'm worried they'll hear you're fighting with Nicole. I'm worried this weekend will become about you." I looked at her. That was when the scale of it changed. My sister had accused me of cheating. My fiancé had joined her. My parents wanted me to apologize, yet my mother believed the danger was that I might disturb the anniversary. "Do you believe me?" I asked. Mom adjusted the sleeve of her dress. "About what?" "The man Nicole says she saw." She looked at Nicole, then back at me. "I believe something happened." "What? I don't know." "Do you believe I had a man in my room? This is not the time to force me to choose between my daughters." Nicole already forced it. Nicole shook her head. "I told the truth." I looked at Mom. If the recording shows Nicole lied, what happens? Mom's mouth tightened. We deal with it privately. And Christopher, you work it out. And tonight, you approve the hotel charge. We have the gala. Tomorrow, when everyone leaves, we discuss the rest. She said it as if the order were obvious. My name, my engagement, and my money could all wait until her guests went home. What if I don't approve it? I asked. The room became still. Nicole looked at me. Mom gave a short laugh. Don't be dramatic. I asked a question. You signed the contract. It requires a final authorization. Then authorize it. Why? Because you promised. I promised to organize the gala. I didn't promise to accept anything you did to me before dinner. Mom stared at me. You would humiliate your father over an argument with Nicole? She accused me of cheating. And the hotel will settle that at 3. No, the hotel will show us a corridor. What happens after that is up to us. Nicole stepped closer. Are you threatening to cancel the gala if I'm right? I know you aren't right. Then you have nothing to worry about. She sounded confident again. For the first time, it didn't make me doubt myself. It made me pay attention to how badly she needed the event to continue. The gala was supposed to prove I belonged in my family. I had believed that if I planned it well enough, my parents would see what I gave them. Christopher would see I could bring both sides together. Nicole might finally treat me as a sister instead of an emergency service. Standing in her suite, I understood that none of them viewed my effort that way. They saw it as access. The moment I limited that access, I became the problem. I picked up my phone. Mom said, "Where are you going?" "To my room. We're not finished." "I am." Nicole moved in front of the door. "What about the brunch?" "There is no brunch. Mom invited people. Then Mom can call them." Mom looked horrified. "You want me to cancel on family? You invited them to something you didn't book. We can still book it. Not on my account." Nicole stepped aside. As I reached the door, Mom said, "Christopher will leave you if you keep acting like this." I stopped. She looked sorry immediately, but she didn't take it back. Nicole watched both of us in the mirror. I opened the door and left. Christopher was standing near my room when I reached the other end of the corridor. He had changed into dark pants and a white shirt. His suit jacket was folded over his arm. "Your mom said you were up here." "Why?" "She wants us to fix this before pictures. Of course she does." He looked at my left hand. "You're still wearing the ring." I hadn't thought about it. "Shouldn't I be?" "I don't know." I unlocked my door. He followed me inside but stayed near the entrance. "I don't want to fight," he said. "Then answer me." "I've answered you." "No. You keep saying you don't know what to believe. You know where you were. You know whether Nicole's story makes sense." He laid his jacket over the chair. "What do you want me to say?" "The truth." His eyes moved to the window. I went outside. "For 2 hours?" "I didn't say 2 hours. You haven't said any time." "Because I wasn't watching a clock." "Were you alone?" His face tightened. "Why are you interrogating me?" "Because you accused me before asking one question. Nicole saw someone. Nicole says she saw someone. She has no reason to lie. That's what my mother said." He picked up his jacket. "I came here to talk. So talk. Tell me you still want this marriage." I looked at him. That question would have worked on me the night before. I would have explained. I would have reminded him of our plans, the cake, the ceremony, and the apartment listings we had saved. Now it sounded like another demand that I prove myself first. "I'm not going to persuade you to believe me," I said. "That isn't what I asked. It's what you mean." He stared at me. I took off my engagement ring. My finger felt strangely light. A pale line remained beneath the band. "What are you doing?" he asked. "I'm taking it off until I know what I'm standing in. You're ending this?" "I'm stopping the part where I chase you while you accuse me." He looked at the ring in my palm. "You always have to control the terms." "No." I just finally heard them. I placed the ring in the inside pocket of my purse and closed the zipper. That was the cost. Until then, the fight had been something I believed we could repair. Taking off the ring made the damage physical. Anyone who looked at my hand would see it. Christopher noticed first. My family would notice next. If you've ever stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, leave the word enough in the comments. Christopher picked up his jacket. The review is at 3, he said. I know. What happens if Nicole's right? She isn't. What happens if the camera doesn't show anything? I looked at him. That would still be more support than you've given me. He opened the door. I didn't ask him to stay. After he left, I sat at the small desk by the window. The ballroom schedule was still open on my phone. Flowers at noon, photographer at 4, reception at 5, final authorization at 6. Clearing my name had been the goal that morning. It wasn't enough anymore. Even if the camera proved Nicole had lied, it wouldn't explain why Christopher wanted her story to be true. It wouldn't make my parents stop treating my card as family property. It wouldn't change the fact that Mom wanted the ring visible more than she wanted an honest answer. I opened the hotel email and read the authorization clause once more. Then I closed it without signing. I no longer needed the review to save my engagement. I needed it to show me exactly who expected me to keep paying after they had finished using my name. I opened a blank note on my phone and listed everything still required before the reception. The florist needed access to the ballroom. The photographer needed the formal picture list. The coordinator needed confirmation that the family table was correct. My parents needed to be dressed and downstairs by 4:30. None of those tasks required me personally. I emailed the picture list to Dad. Please confirm this directly with the photographer when he arrives. Then I sent Mom the timing for the family table. Please check the names and tell the coordinator if anything is wrong. I sent Nicole the place card instructions. Please put these at the entrance before 5. She replied almost immediately. Are your hands broken? I wrote, no. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. I put my phone in my purse and went downstairs. The florist had arrived. Boxes of greenery covered the service hallway. One of the ballroom doors was propped open, and 2 staff members were carrying arrangements inside. Mom stood in the middle of the hallway pointing at a box. These aren't tall enough, she said. The florist explained that they were the centerpieces in the signed order. Mom saw me. Jasmine, tell her we discussed the taller ones. We discussed the price and declined them. Mom's face tightened. They look smaller in person. They're the ones you ordered. The florist looked between us. Would you like us to place one on a table so you can see it? Yes, Mom said. They carried one arrangement inside. Mom followed. I stayed in the hallway. The coordinator came over with the updated banquet sheet. The brunch request has been removed, she said. And the suite extension? Still on Nicole's card if she chooses to keep it. Good. She handed me the sheet. The remaining balance was $12,600. It matched the contract and the final count. Can this amount change after I authorize it? I asked. Only if you approve an added service. Otherwise, this is the closing banquet charge. And if I don't approve by 6. Service pauses until another adult assumes the balance. She said it quietly. Guests were moving through the lobby nearby. Would that adult need to sign a new authorization? Yes, and provide a card that clears for the amount. I folded the sheet once. Please keep the account exactly as it is. I will. That was the first part of my new plan. I wasn't going to argue about whether my family respected my limits. I was going to make the limits work without their agreement. Mom came back into the hallway. The flowers are fine, she said. The florist had solved the problem by putting one arrangement on a table. Mom had looked at it and made a decision. I hadn't fixed anything. She noticed the paper in my hand. What's that? The final banquet sheet. Is everything okay? Yes. Did you authorize it? Authorization is at 6. She glanced at my bare left hand. Her eyes stayed there. Where's your ring? In my purse. Put it on. No. The coordinator stepped away. Mom lowered her voice. You cannot walk into our anniversary reception without your engagement ring. I can. People will ask questions. Then tell them it's private. Christopher is already upset. So am I. She touched my wrist. Please don't do this to me today. I moved my hand away. I didn't do this. Dad came through the ballroom doors. What's going on? Mom looked at my hand. Dad followed her eyes. Oh, for God's sake, Jasmine. I handed him the photographer list. He'll be here at 4. You need to confirm these names with him. He took the page automatically. Why are you giving me this? Because they're your relatives. You made the list, and now you have it. He stared at the paper. Are you stepping away from the gala? No, I'm completing the contract. I'm not doing everyone's individual tasks. This is not the day to make a point. I'm not making a point. I'm giving you the information. Mom said, she took off her ring. Dad looked at me. Put it back on until tonight. No. His face became red. Your mother has worked too hard for this. I almost asked what work he meant. I didn't. The photographer arrives at 4, I said. The names are on the page. I walked into the ballroom. The centerpieces looked good. Mom was right that they weren't tall, but they didn't block anyone's view. The river was visible through the windows. Gold napkins rested beside the plates. Nicole was placing cards on the entry table. She saw my hand. So you ended it. I didn't say that. You took off the ring. I'm not discussing it with you. She put down a card. I was trying to help him. By accusing me of cheating. By telling him the truth. The review is at 3. I know. She smiled slightly. You're very confident for someone who doesn't know what the camera caught. I know who entered my room. Do you? Yes. No one. Her smile disappeared. I picked up one of the place cards. She had arranged them alphabetically. The names were clear and the table looked ready. This is done, I said. I told you I could do it. I didn't say you couldn't. You act like it. No, Mom acts like it, and you let her. Nicole stared at me. I placed the card back. You handled the welcome bags. You completed the seating chart. You did this. You can help Mom without routing everything through me. I don't need a performance review. Then stop talking like I'm keeping you from participating. She looked toward the hallway where our parents stood. You really think you're better than us. I think you're capable of paying for your own room. Her face hardened. There it is. Yes, there it is. I left her at the table. At the front desk, I asked whether the operations manager was available. He came out a few minutes later. I want to confirm the review is still scheduled, I said. 3 o'clock. I've verified all 5 guests. Does the time window include the full period Nicole gave you? Yes, I've preserved the relevant footage. I don't want anyone changing the time or corridor without everyone present. That won't happen. Has anyone asked? He paused. Your sister asked whether she could speak with me privately. What did you say? That the review would include all registered parties named in the complaint. That was useful. Nicole had already tried to separate herself from the group process she demanded. Did she say why she wanted to meet alone? She said there might be sensitive context. What kind? She didn't explain. I thanked him. As I turned, I saw Nicole near the ballroom entrance. She had watched the whole conversation. I couldn't tell how much she had heard. She walked toward me. What did you ask him? I confirmed the appointment. You don't trust me? No, you don't trust the hotel either? I trust a process more when everyone hears the same answer. She stopped a few feet away. You think you're going to trap me? I think we're going to watch a recording. What happens after? That depends on what we see. You keep saying that because it's true. Nicole looked toward the front desk. I didn't ask for all this. You demanded the camera. I thought you'd admit it. Admit what? She caught herself. That someone came to your room. If you saw him, why would I need to admit it? Her eyes shifted, only for a second. Then she smiled. You're twisting words. No, I'm listening to them. She walked away. That small break in her confidence mattered. It didn't prove what she had planned. It told me there was a plan. I went to my room and wrote down her exact time window, corridor, and description. Dark jacket, baseball cap, elevator, a little after midnight. Then I wrote Christopher's answers. outside, walking. Didn't check the time. Alone, unanswered. I didn't add theories. I needed the questions to stay simple. At 12:40, Dad called. The photographer moved his arrival to 3:30. Okay, shouldn't we change the picture schedule? You have the list. I don't know how long it takes. Ask him when he arrives. Dad went quiet. You're serious about making me handle this? Yes. What if something gets missed? Then something gets missed. He exhaled. Fine. At 1:20, he sent me a message. Spoke to photographer. Pictures start 4:15, all handled. I looked at the words. Dad had called a professional, asked a question, and adjusted a schedule. The gala had survived without me. That success should have felt small. It didn't. It confirmed that my family's helplessness had always been selective. They could act when I stopped moving first. The cost became clear when I returned to the ballroom. Mom and Nicole were speaking near the entry table. They stopped when they saw me. Dad held the photographer list at his side. What? I asked. Mom gave me a careful look. Nicole says you're trying to use the hotel account to control everyone. I'm controlling the hotel account. She says you threatened not to pay. I asked what would happen if I didn't authorize it. Dad stepped closer. Why would you ask that? Because you promised my money to Nicole. We told you we'd settle it. After charging it first. Mom looked toward two relatives entering the lobby. Lower your voice. My voice was already low. Nicole picked up a stack of place cards. See what she's doing. She wants everyone nervous. No, I said, you're nervous. She looked at me sharply. Mom said, we need some assurance that you won't cause a problem at 6. Knowledge moved across Nicole's face. Until that moment, she hadn't understood the final payment required a separate decision from me. Now she knew there was an authorization at 6. She didn't know what I would do with it. I hadn't decided. But my practical boundary had given her a target. She looked at the folded banquet sheet in my hand, then at my purse. You're not the only person who can keep this family together, she said. I know. I walked past her and placed the final sheet inside the banquet folder. Behind me, Mom told Nicole they needed to speak privately. This time, Nicole didn't argue. She followed Mom out of the ballroom and Dad went with them. 10 minutes later, Mom texted me. Come to our room. We need to resolve this. I almost ignored it. Then Christopher sent a message. I'm here too. I went upstairs. Dad opened the door. Mom sat near the window. Nicole stood beside the dresser, still wearing her robe over her dress. Christopher was in the chair closest to the door. No one had invited me to sit. Dad closed the door. We all need to calm down, he said. I'm calm. Nicole laughed softly. Dad looked at her. Please. Mom folded her hands. We're concerned you're making decisions because you're angry. What decisions? The ring, the hotel rules, refusing to help. I completed my work for the hotel. That isn't the point, she said. What is? She looked toward Christopher. He leaned forward. I think you should authorize the banquet charge now. I stared at him. Why? To show this isn't a threat. Did they ask you to say that? No. Nicole moved away from the dresser. We all came to the same conclusion. Without me. You made your position clear, she said. I haven't told any of you what I'll do at 6. That's the problem, Dad said. We can't spend the next 4 hours wondering whether dinner will happen, then assume it will. Mom shook her head. We need more than that. You were comfortable assuming I'd pay for Sunday. That was different. How? No one answered. Christopher stood. This is your parents' anniversary. Whatever happened between us shouldn't affect their guests. Whatever happened. You know what I mean? No. Say it. He looked toward Nicole. She met his eyes. Then he said, This accusation. You're part of the accusation. I'm the person who was cheated on. You don't know that. Nicole saw him. You keep repeating her claim like you were there. His face hardened. Why are you so focused on where I was? Because you won't answer. This isn't about me. It became about you when you decided I was guilty. Mom stood. Enough. The review is in less than 2 hours. We'll have an answer then. I looked at her. If the recording shows no one entered my room, are you going to apologize? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad said, "Let's not get ahead of ourselves." Nicole smiled without warmth. She needs everyone to promise she wins. I need to know whether truth changes anything here. Christopher picked up his jacket. What do you want from me? An honest answer. I've given you one. No, you've given me Nicole's answer. The room went quiet. He stepped closer. If you walk into that review treating me like an enemy, don't expect us to come back from it. I felt the pale line on my ring finger. Are you asking me to choose between you and a hotel recording? I'm asking you to trust me. You accused me of cheating, and you've interrogated me since breakfast. That's not the same. Maybe not to you. He reached for the door. I said, if you leave now, don't expect me to chase you. He looked at me for several seconds. Then he opened the door. Mom said, "Christopher, wait." He didn't. The door closed behind him. That was a real loss. I had stopped trying to preserve the engagement, but some part of me had still expected him to stay in the room and act like the man I knew. He hadn't. Mom turned to me. Are you happy now? No. You pushed him out. I asked him where he was. Nicole stepped toward the window. You never know when to stop. I looked at her back. You could stop this right now. I already told you what I saw. You could admit you lied. She turned. Why would I admit something that isn't true? Because Christopher is leaving. That's between you and him. No, it isn't. Her face remained still. Dad moved between us. This is going nowhere. I walked toward the door. Mom followed me. Jasmine, please, authorize the payment. I'll make that decision at 6. You signed the contract. I know exactly what I signed. If you don't pay, what happens? I looked at her. She truly hadn't read it. Another adult has to assume the balance before service continues. Dad's expression changed. How much is the balance? $12,600. He stared at me. You said the party was paid. I said you were current with me. The hotel balance is due tonight. Mom's voice became quiet. We gave you money. You reimbursed the deposits and added guests. The closing balance still has to be charged. To your card, Dad said, if I authorize it. Nicole looked at him. Can't they just charge it? No, I said. She turned back to me. You're enjoying this. I'm not. You've been waiting to hold it over us. I reminded you about every payment for months. Mom sat down. You cannot do this to your father. Dad remained standing. This isn't only our event. People traveled. I know, so approve it now. No. That one word changed the room. I hadn't said I would decline at 6. I hadn't decided that yet. But I had refused to surrender the decision early. Dad pointed toward me. If dinner is interrupted because of you, everyone will know. I understand. They'll ask why. I understand that too. Mom looked at Nicole. That was when Nicole changed tactics. She left the room without saying anything. I assumed she was going to finish getting ready. I was wrong. By the time I returned to the lobby, she was speaking to 3 relatives near the front windows. I couldn't hear everything. I heard my name. I heard the word payment. Then one woman looked toward me. Nicole lowered her voice when she saw me. Mom came out of the elevator behind me. What is she doing? She asked. You should ask her. We walked over. Nicole smiled at the group. It'll be fine, she said. Jasmine's just under a lot of pressure. One of the women touched my arm. Your mother told us you've done such a beautiful job, thank you. Nicole added. She takes on too much, then gets overwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed, I said. The woman looked uncomfortable. Nicole gave me a concerned smile. See? She's defensive about it. Mom said, Nicole, could I speak with you? They moved away. The relatives stayed with me. Is everything still happening tonight? One of them asked. Yes. That was all I said. I wasn't going to explain a hotel contract in the lobby. I wasn't going to accuse my sister before the recording. I wasn't going to tell them my fiancé had left our parents' room after refusing to say where he'd been. My silence gave Nicole room. Within half an hour, 2 more people asked whether the reception was in trouble. One man offered to help move chairs. Another relative told me families get tense around big events. Nobody mentioned the accusation. Nicole had chosen a safer story. I was controlling the money. I was overwhelmed. I might ruin the gala. She didn't need to prove any of it. She only needed to say it before I said anything else. At 2, Dad found me near the ballroom. "What did you tell people?" he asked. "Nothing." "They're asking about the reception. Nicole told them there might be a payment problem." His face went red. I told her not to. She wanted pressure on me. "You're the one creating pressure." "How?" "By refusing to authorize the hotel. The deadline is 6. That's not the point. It is literally the point." He looked around. "Give me your card." "No, I'll authorize it." "You can't." "Then let me take your phone and do it." "That would still be me authorizing it. No one would know the difference." "I would." Dad stared at me. "You don't trust your own father? You promised my money without asking. I said I'd pay you back. Next week after I carried it." His voice dropped. "I have never left you unpaid, only because I remind you until you pay. That is insulting. It's accurate." He stepped back. "If you embarrass your mother tonight, it changes things between us." "They already changed." He walked away. I went into the ballroom office and closed the door. For the first time that day, I was alone. The banquet folder sat on the desk. My payment card was in my wallet. My phone showed the authorization waiting in the hotel email. Everything practical was still under my control. My reputation wasn't. Nicole had removed the advantage of quiet. If I declined the charge later, people would already believe her version. They wouldn't see a boundary. They would see an unstable daughter punishing her parents during their anniversary. I could approve the payment early and stop the questions. The reception would continue. My parents would relax. Nicole would know pressure worked. Christopher might return for the review and believe I had chosen the family over the fight. Or I could keep the decision until I had the truth. That choice had a price now. I took my card from my wallet and held it for a moment. The numbers were worn slightly at the edges from years of use. Then I put it back. At 2:15, Mom entered without knocking. She had changed into her gala dress. Her makeup was finished. "Your father says you wouldn't give him the card." "That's right." She closed the door. "If you go through with this, I won't defend you to the family. I didn't ask you to. You'll lose more than Christopher." My hand tightened around my phone. Is that a threat? It's reality. I looked at her dress, the flowers beyond the office window, and the tables I had helped fill. "What are you asking me to accept? That sometimes family comes before being right. Nicole accused me of cheating, and in 45 minutes, we'll know what the hotel shows. Then why do you need my authorization now?" She didn't answer. I understood. If the recording cleared me, Mom still wanted the money secured before I learned whatever Nicole and Christopher were hiding. "I'll be at the review," I said, "and at 6, I'll make my decision." She opened the door. "Don't expect me to forgive you if you ruin this." I let her leave. Then I placed the unsigned authorization beside the banquet folder and set an alarm for 2:45. I knew what keeping control might cost me now. The engagement could end. My parents could blame me in front of everyone. Nicole could keep telling relatives I was unstable. I accepted all of that. At 3, I was still going to watch the recording. At 6, the decision would still be mine. At 2:20, the coordinator tapped on the office door. "Do you have a moment?" I moved the banquet folder aside. "Of course." She stepped inside and closed the door. "Your father asked whether the contracting client could be changed." "When?" "A few minutes ago." "What did you tell him?" "That another adult can assume the balance. But we need that person's card and signed authorization." "Did he provide them?" "No." "Did he ask to split the balance?" "He asked whether we could keep your card and put his name on the authorization." I looked at her. "What did you say?" that we can't. Dad had tried to take control without taking the debt. The coordinator placed a printed copy of the contract on the desk. I thought you might want this. It was the same agreement I had saved on my phone. The final payment section was marked with a small paper tab. I read it anyway. The contracting client had to authorize the closing banquet charge by 6. If that authorization wasn't received, banquet service paused until the balance was assumed by another adult. No automatic charge, no family override, no authority transferred because someone was my father. If someone else assumes it, can they use more than one card? I asked. Yes, if all cards clear before service continues. Can they reduce the package? That depends on what has already been served. I looked through the ballroom window. The reception food had not been placed yet. What could be reduced after 6? Dinner service, bar service, and anything that hasn't been opened or prepared for release. Room rental and costs already incurred would remain, so they could scale back if they needed to. And the hotel would explain that to them? We would explain their options. We won't choose for them. That mattered. The hotel wasn't going to punish my parents. It wasn't going to rescue me either. It would follow the agreement and wait for someone to pay. Does anyone else have access to my authorization link? No. It was sent to your email and mobile number. What if someone has my phone? We still verify the contracting client before processing the final charge. I nodded. The coordinator watched me for a second. Do you expect a payment issue? I expect pressure. That isn't quite what I asked. No, it isn't. I placed the printed contract beside the banquet folder. Please continue setting up the reception. You don't want us to pause anything now? No. I could have stopped the entire event before the guests entered. I could have told the hotel there was a family dispute and asked them to freeze every service until after the recording. That would have protected me financially. It also would have used people who knew nothing as part of the fight. I wasn't going to do that. Continue exactly as scheduled, I said. At 6, follow the contract. The coordinator nodded. I understand. And please don't discuss the account with guests unless payment becomes necessary. We won't. She left. I sat with the printed agreement in front of me. The electronic contract and the hotel's copy matched. The coordinator had confirmed the procedure. Dad had already tested whether he could replace my name without accepting the charge. He couldn't. One uncertainty was gone. The leverage was real. My phone vibrated. A family group message had started without me. Mom added me after several messages had already been sent. The first message I could see was from a relative asking whether dinner would be delayed. Nicole replied, "Everything is okay. Jasmine is dealing with a personal issue and needs some space." Mom added, "Please enjoy the hotel. We'll see everyone at the reception." I typed a response. My personal issue is that Nicole accused me of bringing a man into my room, and Christopher supported her without telling me where he was. I read it once. If I sent it, Nicole's safer story would end immediately. Relatives would ask questions. Christopher would have to answer. My parents would lose control of the conversation before they finished dressing. It would also turn the hotel lobby into a place where people discussed who might have slept with whom. I deleted the message. I wrote, "The reception schedule hasn't changed." Then I sent it. Nicole called less than a minute later. "Why did you answer the group?" "Because Mom added me." "You made it sound like something could change." I said, "The schedule hasn't changed. You could have said everything was fine. Everything isn't fine." She lowered her voice. "Are you going to tell them?" "Tell them what?" "You know, your accusation?" I told the truth. "Then why are you worried?" "I'm not worried. I don't want Mom's anniversary turned into gossip. You brought it to breakfast." "Breakfast was private. So is the review." She was quiet. I could hear a door close on her end. "Whatever you think you're doing," she said, "you're going to regret it." "What am I doing?" "Trying to make everyone choose. I asked for a recording after you demanded one. You always do this. You take one little thing and build a case." "One little thing? You know what I mean?" "No, I don't." She ended the call. I wrote down that sentence too. She had called the accusation one little thing. At 2:35, Christopher knocked on the office door. He stepped inside before I answered. His jacket was on now. He'd combed his hair and looked ready for photographs. "You're not dressed," he said. "I will be. The review is in 25 minutes. I know." He noticed the printed contract. "Are you really planning to hold up the gala?" "I haven't said what I'm planning. Your parents are terrified. They can assume the balance. $12,600? Yes, that's a lot to demand on the spot. It's the amount they plan to spend. On your card. With my authorization." He sat across from me. "Approve it, and then we'll go to the review." "No." "Why?" "Because those things aren't connected. You've made them connected. Nicole did that when she accused the person paying." He leaned back. "There it is." "What? You think paying means nobody can question you?" "No. I think questioning my character might affect whether I keep volunteering my money. You're punishing them because you're angry with me. I asked you a simple question. Where I was. Yes." He looked at the contract. "If I answer, will you authorize it?" My breathing slowed. Why would those things be connected? I'm trying to solve the immediate problem. The immediate problem is that you won't tell me the truth. He rubbed both hands over his face. "I went for a walk. I came back. I couldn't sleep." "What time did you return?" "I don't remember." "Did you use the East Wing elevator?" His eyes moved to mine. "Why?" "Answer." "I don't remember which elevator." There were 2 guest wings. Christopher's room was on the 3rd floor. He had no reason to use mine unless he was coming to see me, or someone else. I didn't know what the camera would show. I still didn't know where he had been. I knew he was choosing every word. "Tell me now," I said, "before we go into that room. I have told you. No. Tell me why you're afraid of the recording." He stood. "I'm not afraid." "Then sit with me for 5 minutes and answer. We're past that." "Yes," I said, "we are." His face changed. "What does that mean?" "It means even if the recording clears me, you don't get to pretend this morning didn't happen. I never said that. You asked me to prove I still wanted the marriage while you accused me of cheating because you took off the ring. I took it off after you refused to believe me." He looked at my bare hand. "If we go into that review like this, there may be no coming back." "I know. Is that what you want?" "I wanted you to tell me the truth." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have left." He opened the office door. "I'll see you at 3. When he left, I felt the relationship close behind him. Not completely. We still had the review. We still had the ring in my purse. We still had a wedding scheduled. But the future we had been planning no longer waited in the same shape. Using the authorization would permanently change things with my parents. Declining it might end whatever relationship remained with them. The camera could end my engagement. There was no version where I walked out with everything restored. At 2:45, my alarm sounded. I changed in my room. I wore the navy dress I had brought for the reception and left the ring in my purse. On my way downstairs, I passed Mom near the elevator. She looked at my hand again. "You still have time to put it on." "No. What am I supposed to tell people?" "That it's private." She pressed the elevator button. "Your grandmother would hate this." My grandmother had been gone for years. She had never asked me to hide pain for a photograph. "Don't use her," I said. Mom's eyes filled. "You really have changed." "No." I stopped answering the same way. The elevator arrived. We rode downstairs without speaking. At the lobby level, Dad waited near the operations office. Nicole stood beside him. Christopher was across the hall with his hands in his pockets. The operations manager opened the door at 2:58. Before we entered, he looked at all 5 of us. "I need everyone to understand that I'm only confirming what appears on the hotel's recording. I'm not deciding your family dispute." "That's fine," I said. Nicole said, "We understand." Christopher didn't speak. Inside, there was a narrow table, 6 chairs, and a monitor mounted on the wall. The screen was dark. The manager sat nearest the computer. My parents took the chairs together. Nicole sat beside Mom. Christopher chose the far end. I sat where I could see the screen clearly. The printed contract remained in the ballroom office. My card remained in my wallet. The final authorization remained unsigned. I had refused the easiest ways to hurt them. I hadn't canceled the reception early. I hadn't sent the accusation to the family group. I hadn't asked the hotel to shame anyone. What happened next would stay in that room unless they chose otherwise. The manager closed the door, signed into the secure system, and opened the East Wing corridor recording. The recording opened at 11:30 Friday night. The manager showed us the camera position first. It covered the elevator, the turn in the corridor, Nicole's suite door, my door farther down, and part of the stairwell entrance. He looked at Nicole. "Please confirm this is the area you described." "Yes," she said. "And your time estimate was midnight to 12:30? A little after midnight. What exactly should we look for?" Nicole kept her eyes on the screen. A man in a dark jacket and baseball cap. He came from the elevator, walked to Jasmine's room, knocked, and went inside. "Did you see him leave?" "No." "Where were you standing?" "Near my suite." The manager moved the recording forward. At 11:47, I appeared in the corridor. I was alone. I walked from the elevator to my room, unlocked the door, and went inside. At 11:56, Nicole entered the frame. She walked quickly from the elevator to her suite. She was wearing the green dress from dinner. She looked back once before opening her door. The manager slowed the recording. "Is that you?" he asked. "Yes." At 12:08, the elevator opened again. Christopher stepped out. Nobody in the room moved. He wore dark pants, the white shirt from dinner, and his suit jacket. There was no baseball cap. He walked directly to Nicole's suite. He didn't look toward my room. He knocked once. Nicole opened the door almost immediately. Christopher went inside. The door closed behind him. Mom's hand moved to her mouth. Dad looked at Christopher. "What is that?" he asked. Christopher stared at the screen. Nicole said, "Keep playing." The manager did. No one approached my room. At 12:30, the corridor was empty. At 1, it was empty. The manager increased the speed while keeping the suite doors visible. A guest passed at 1:23. A hotel employee walked through at 2:10. Nobody knocked on my door. Nobody entered it. Christopher didn't leave Nicole's suite. The recording continued into Saturday morning. At 6:14, Nicole opened her door and looked down the corridor. She stepped back inside. At 6:19, Christopher came out. His shirt was wrinkled. His jacket was folded over his arm. Nicole stood in the doorway behind him. He turned and said something the camera didn't record. She touched his chest. Then he walked toward the elevator. The manager stopped the recording. For several seconds, the only sound in the room came from the computer fan. Dad stood so quickly that his chair struck the wall. "What were you doing in there?" Christopher looked at Nicole. She spoke first. He was upset. "All night?" Mom asked. "We were talking." I looked at Christopher. "Were you talking?" He still wouldn't look at me. Nicole said, "Nothing happened." "That isn't the question," I said. Dad pointed at the screen. "You left her room this morning." Christopher rubbed his face. "I made a mistake." Nicole turned toward him. "Don't." He looked at her. That one word changed the room again. The manager stood. "I'll give you privacy. I've confirmed the corridor activity relevant to the complaint." Before he left, he looked at me. "No unidentified person approached or entered your room during the stated period." "Thank you," I said. He closed the door behind him. Mom sat very still. Dad asked Christopher, "Why did Nicole say Jasmine had a man in her room?" Christopher gripped the back of his chair. Nicole said, "She misunderstood what I said." I looked at her. "You described a jacket, a cap, a knock, and my door. I saw movement. You identified my room. I was tired." Dad said, "Stop." Nicole turned to him. "She's been trying to ruin this whole weekend." "No," I said. "Answer the question." Christopher sat down. It was supposed to make things easier. Mom stared at him. What was? He spoke without looking at anyone. Nicole said Jasmine and I were probably going to end anyway. Nicole stepped toward him. That's not what I said. You said if everyone believed Jasmine had someone else, nobody would blame me. Dad's face emptied. Christopher continued. She said Jasmine would deny it. Then there'd be a fight, but the gala would still happen. Nicole's voice became sharp. You agreed. He looked at her. I didn't agree until this morning. You sat there and accused her. I know. I asked. Why? He finally looked at me. Because I didn't know how to get out. Out of what? The wedding. The family. All of it. So you let her tell them I cheated. I was angry. That isn't an answer. He looked toward the closed door. I thought if the engagement ended because of you, nobody would ask where I had been. Nicole crossed her arms. And now you're making me responsible for everything. You came up with it. You went along with it. Yes, the admission sat there. No one tried to deny it again. Mom began crying quietly. Dad looked at Nicole. You expected Jasmine to pay for tonight after doing this? Nicole's face tightened. She signed the contract. That was her answer. Not an apology. Not confusion. She believed my signature mattered more than what she had done to me. I picked up my purse. Mom wiped her face. Where are you going? To get ready for the reception. Dad stared at me. That's it? The recording answered the complaint. Christopher stood. Jasmine, wait. I looked at him. He had nothing ready to say. Mom reached for my arm. We need to keep this private. I stepped away. You already told me that. Please don't embarrass Nicole. I looked at my sister. She was watching me with anger, not shame. I'm not telling anyone what happened in this room. Mom exhaled. Thank you. I didn't say I was authorizing the charge. Her relief disappeared. Dad said, Don't mix these things. They were mixed before I walked in. You gave us your word. I gave you months of work. Nicole said, You can't punish Mom and Dad because Christopher changed his mind. I looked at her. You still think this is about him? I left. Christopher followed me into the corridor. Can we talk? No. I'm sorry. I pressed the elevator button. I don't need that sentence right now. Nothing happened with Nicole. You stayed in her suite until morning and helped accuse me. I know how it looks. That's what people say when the truth looks bad. The elevator opened. He reached toward me, then stopped. What happens to us? There is no us. His face went still. You don't mean that. I took off the ring before I knew where you were. Now I know. I stepped inside. He didn't follow. At 4:15, the photographer arranged my parents near the ballroom windows. Nicole stood on Mom's left. Dad asked me to stand on his right. Christopher wasn't there. Mom looked at my bare hand, but she didn't say anything. I stood for 2 photographs. Then I stepped away and let them continue. Relatives began entering the ballroom at 5. Music played near the windows. The basic bar opened. Servers carried small trays through the room. No one knew what the camera had shown. Nicole greeted guests. Dad shook hands. Mom smiled until someone looked away. Then her face dropped. I stayed near the ballroom office. At 5:55, the coordinator approached me. We're ready for final authorization. Mom saw us and came over. Dad and Nicole followed. The coordinator handed me the tablet. The closing balance appeared above 2 choices. Authorize charge, decline authorization. Dad spoke quietly. Jasmine, do this for your mother. Mom said, we can discuss everything tomorrow. Nicole looked toward the seated relatives. You promised the reception would happen. I promised to attend, I said. Then I pressed decline authorization. The coordinator accepted the tablet. Under the contract, banquet service is now paused until another adult assumes the unpaid balance. Dad stared at her. You can't stop in the middle. We can continue as soon as payment is arranged. Across the ballroom, servers stopped leaving the service corridor. The bar staff covered the hosted account and began speaking quietly to guests ordering drinks. The music continued. Relatives looked toward us. Mom's face went pale. Nicole whispered, What did you do? I put my phone in my purse. I declined the charge. You were bluffing. I never said that. Dad told the coordinator, "Use my card." We moved into the ballroom office. Dad handed her his card. It declined for the full balance. He tried again. The result didn't change. Mom opened her purse. Put part on mine. The coordinator explained that they could divide the balance, but every portion had to clear before full service resumed. Nicole stood by the door. Dad looked at her. "Give her your card. My suite is on it. Give it to her." Nicole looked at me. I said nothing. She handed over her card. The 3 available limits still didn't cover the full package. The coordinator opened the service options. "We can reduce the hosted bar, remove the unopened wine service, and cancel the dessert course," she said. "That would lower the amount due. The room, prepared dinner, staffing, and services already provided remain." Mom gripped the edge of the desk. "No anniversary cake? The cake can remain if you cancel the separate plated desserts." Dad said, "Do it." Nicole turned toward him. "People will notice." "They already notice," he said. The coordinator revised the total. Dad's card covered one portion. Mom's covered another. Nicole's covered the rest after the reductions. The coordinator printed 3 authorization slips. They signed their own names. Through the office window, I could see the assembled family waiting in the ballroom. The bar had switched to cash service. The dessert plates were being removed from the service station. Mom looked at me as she signed. I didn't look away. The gala continued because the 3 people who had planned it finally paid for what they could afford. The coordinator restarted dinner service at 6:23. No announcement was made. Servers returned with plates, and the bar continued as a cash bar. Most relatives understood that something financial had happened. They didn't know what. Mom went back into the ballroom first. She smiled and told everyone there had been a small adjustment with the hotel. Dad stayed in the office long enough to collect the 3 payment receipts. Nicole stood near the door. "You could have warned us," she said. "I told you the authorization was mine. You didn't say you'd decline it. You didn't tell me you were going to accuse me." She glanced toward the ballroom. "Keep your voice down." "I am. If people ask, tell them the hotel made an error." "No." Her eyes narrowed. "You owe Mom that much. I don't owe anyone a lie." I walked into the ballroom. My assigned seat was at the family table between Christopher and Dad. Christopher's chair remained empty. I moved my place card to an open seat at a nearby table. Mom saw me do it. She didn't stop me. Dinner was quieter than the welcome meal. People noticed the missing dessert forks. They noticed that drinks now required payment. One relative asked Dad whether the hotel had mixed up the package. Dad said, "We adjusted a few things." He didn't mention me. That was the first different choice he made all day. After the main course, the anniversary cake was brought out. It was smaller than the plated dessert display Mom had planned, but it was enough. She and Dad cut it together while people took pictures. Nicole had to help place slices on paper plates. She did it badly at first. The pieces were uneven, and frosting covered her fingers. Mom showed her how to wipe the knife between cuts. I watched them finish the entire cake without calling my name. At another table, someone asked why I wasn't sitting with my family. "I wanted a quieter seat," I said. That was true enough. The speeches started after dinner. Dad thanked everyone for traveling. He thanked Mom for staying married to him. He thanked Nicole for the invitations and welcome bags. Then he looked at me, and Jasmine handled the hotel arrangements. There was a pause before the applause. He could have blamed me. He didn't. He also didn't apologize. Both things were true. Mom gave a short speech about families staying together through difficult moments. She looked at me twice. I kept my hands in my lap. Nicole didn't speak. By 8, the reception had settled into something ordinary. People danced. The cash bar stopped feeling unusual. Nobody seemed devastated by the missing plated desserts. That was another thing my family had exaggerated. The gala didn't need to be perfect. It only needed people willing to adapt. At 8:30, Dad came to my table. The coordinator says someone needs to confirm the final room count for checkout, then confirm it. He nodded. "I thought you might have the list. It's in the folder." He waited. perhaps expecting me to stand. I didn't. "I'll get it," he said. He went to the ballroom office, found the list, and handled it himself. Mom spent most of the evening speaking to relatives. Nicole moved between tables trying to find out what people knew. I could tell because she kept returning to the same question. Did Jasmine say anything? Most people said no. A few looked at her strangely after she asked. By trying to protect her reputation, she made people curious. Around 9, she sat beside me. "You're enjoying everyone wondering. I haven't told anyone. You moved tables. I didn't want to sit beside Christopher. He left. I know. He's upset. So am I." She lowered her voice. "He says you ended the engagement." I did. Her face changed, but not with guilt. Then what I said didn't matter. I looked at her. "What? You were going to break up anyway." "No. Christopher wanted out. I didn't know that until today." "Exactly. That doesn't excuse you. I was trying to help him." "You were helping yourself." "How?" "You wanted everyone focused on me while you kept the gala and your suite." She looked toward Mom. "You always make money sound dirty. I make it sound counted. You think paying for things makes you important? No. You thought I would keep paying after you lied." Her mouth tightened. "I didn't expect you to humiliate Mom. You paid for part of the gala you enlarged. And now people think I couldn't afford my own room. Could you? That isn't their business. I agree." She leaned closer. "Then tell them the hotel account was a misunderstanding." "No. Tell them you chose to change the package." "I declined my charge. You, Mom, and Dad chose the package you could cover." Her face became flat. "You really want me to look bad. I'm not repairing your reputation. You've always hated me." "No, I kept hoping you'd become my sister." She stood. "I am your sister." "Then act like it." She walked away. She never apologized that night. At 9:40, I saw Christopher through the lobby doors. He was sitting on a bench near the front entrance. His overnight bag rested beside him. I stayed in the ballroom until the music ended. When I stepped into the lobby, he stood. "Can we have 5 minutes?" 5. We moved toward the front windows. I could see the river lights beyond the glass. He looked at my bare hand. "Do you have the ring?" "Yes. Can I have it?" I opened my purse and took out the small inside pouch. I placed the ring in his palm. He closed his fingers around it. "I'm sorry," he said. I waited. "I shouldn't have gone to her room." "No. She said you'd never make room for me unless something forced you, and you believed her." I was angry. "You've said that. I didn't sleep with her. You stayed until morning. We talked. We drank. I fell asleep. I'm not asking what happened in the suite." His eyes moved away. "I need you to understand. I understand enough. She brought up the accusation this morning. I didn't know she was going to do it at breakfast, but you joined her. I panicked. You performed." His face tightened. "What does that mean?" "You scraped your chair. You asked who he was. You never asked whether it was true." He looked down at the ring. "I thought if I backed out, your family would hate me. So you helped them hate me. I know how bad that sounds. It sounds accurate." He put the ring in his pocket. "Is there any chance later?" "No. You can't know that now. I know it now." He nodded slowly. "What about the deposits? We'll list them and divide what can't be refunded. You don't have to decide tonight. I'm not deciding tonight. I'm telling you what happens next." He picked up his bag. "I did love you." I didn't answer. He waited. Then he walked through the front doors. That relationship ended without shouting. There was no final embrace. He took the ring, and I kept the pale line it had left on my finger. Inside the ballroom, hotel staff began clearing tables. Mom asked me to help gather the centerpieces for relatives who wanted them. "No," I said. She looked exhausted. "Jasmine, there are 20 tables. Nicole can help. She's checking out her suite extension. Then Dad can help." Mom closed her eyes. "You're really leaving us with all of it?" "Yes." Dad came over carrying 2 boxes. "We'll handle it," he said. Mom looked at him. He repeated, "We'll handle it." I collected my purse and coat. The event wasn't finished. They still had gift bags, flowers, cards, leftover cake, and 3 revised payment receipts to organize. For once, those things remained with the people whose names were on the celebration. I went to my room and slept. The next morning, I checked out shortly before 9. Nicole's suite door was closed. Her extra night had been canceled after the payment scramble. She had left early. In the lobby, Mom was carrying a box of folded table linens. Dad had 2 flower arrangements balanced in his arms. They looked tired. "Where's Nicole?" I asked. "Gone," Dad said. "Did she help?" "She packed the welcome table. Mom adjusted the box. We were here until after midnight." I nodded. Dad looked at my suitcase. "Are you driving straight home?" "Yes. Your mother and I want to talk." "Not here." Mom said, "When?" "When you're finished." "We are finished." I looked toward the ballroom. The coordinator was standing beside another stack of boxes. The banquet folder remained open on the office desk. "No," I said. "You still have cleanup." Mom followed my eyes. "We can call you later." "Yes." She seemed surprised that I agreed. I walked outside with my suitcase. Nobody asked me to carry a box. Nobody asked me to call the hotel. Behind me, my parents returned to the ballroom and completed the work they had always expected me to finish. I drove home with my phone turned off. The apartment looked exactly as I had left it. 2 cake sample plates were still in the refrigerator. Christopher's mug sat in the drying rack. I put the mug in a cabinet. Then I opened our wedding folder. The bakery had a deposit. The officiant had reserved the date without charging us. Our small venue had taken a payment that was partly refundable. I made a list and emailed it to Christopher. "I'll contact the vendors tomorrow. Please confirm you'll cover half of anything we can't recover." He replied an hour later, "I will." There was no argument. He didn't ask to talk. On Monday, I canceled the cake order and released the ceremony date. The venue returned most of its deposit. Christopher transferred his half of the remaining loss that afternoon. He added 1 sentence to the payment note. "I'm sorry I made you prove something I knew wasn't true." That was the most honest apology he gave me. I didn't respond. The hotel sent its closing statement on Tuesday. My card had not been charged. Dad, Mom, and Nicole's payments were listed separately. The reduced services appeared underneath. The final balance was 0. I saved the statement with the contract and closed the folder. Mom called that evening. I almost let it go to voicemail. Then I answered. "We finished everything Sunday," she said. "I know. Your father returned the table linens. Nicole took the remaining welcome bags. I gave the flowers to relatives." "Okay." She waited. "We didn't call you for help. I noticed. I wanted you to know." I sat at my kitchen table. "Why?" "Because you were right. We could do it." That wasn't the apology, but it was the first sentence that made one possible. Dad came on the line. The hotel sent us the receipts. They sent me a closing statement, too. "We're not asking you for anything." I believed him because the balance was already paid. Dad cleared his throat. "I shouldn't have tried to use your phone." "No. And I shouldn't have asked for your card." "No. I was scared people would see we couldn't cover the full amount. You planned a gala you couldn't cover. We planned one we thought you would carry. That was exact." "I waited," he said. "That wasn't fair." Mom took the phone again. "I believed Nicole because believing you meant admitting what she'd done." "What had she done?" "She lied. She used Christopher. She expected you to keep paying." The words came slowly. "And you still asked me to protect her," I said. "Yes." "Why?" "Because that's what I've always done." I looked at the closed wedding folder across the table. "That isn't an apology." "I know." Mom's voice shook. "I'm sorry I asked you to apologize for something you didn't do. I'm sorry I cared more about the reception than what happened to you." She stopped. I didn't rescue her from the silence. Dad said, "I'm sorry too." "Thank you," I said. Mom exhaled. "Can we come over?" "Not tonight." "When?" "I don't know." She accepted that answer. That mattered more than the apology. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't see them. Mom texted once every few days. She didn't ask about bills, schedules, or forms. Dad called one Saturday. The insurance company sent us something confusing. I waited. He continued, I'm not asking you to handle it. I called them, and they explained it. Good. I just wanted you to know. Okay. He sounded disappointed by my short answer, but he didn't turn his disappointment into a job for me. A few days later, Nicole sent an email. She said relatives believed she had caused the hotel problem. She wanted me to tell the family group that the package changes were my decision. I read her message twice. Then I replied, the package changed because I declined my authorization. You, Mom, and Dad selected and paid for the services you could cover. I won't give anyone a different version. She answered within minutes. You're destroying my reputation over one bad weekend. I didn't reply. She sent another message. You don't get to cut me off forever. I moved both emails into a separate folder and blocked her number. That wasn't revenge. It was access ending. A month after the gala, Mom invited me to dinner. I asked who would be there. Just your father and me. Is Nicole coming later? No. Did she ask you to talk to me? Mom paused. Yes, then I'm not coming. She wants to apologize. She has my email. She says you won't answer. I'll read an apology. I won't negotiate my boundary through you. Mom was quiet. All right, she said. She didn't call me unkind. She didn't mention family loyalty. She didn't ask what my grandmother would think. 2 weeks later, she invited me again. This time, Nicole hadn't asked her. I went. Dinner was roast chicken, potatoes, and green beans, the same meal we'd eaten while planning the gala. The table felt different with only 3 people. When Dad asked how work was going, he listened to my answer. Mom didn't hand me a form after dessert. I stayed for an hour. Before I left, Dad said, We're trying. I can see that. He nodded. I didn't say everything was forgiven. It wasn't. Limited contact became our arrangement. We had dinner once or twice a month. I answered calls when I wanted to. If Dad needed help with a website, he tried customer service first. If Mom wanted to plan something, she made a budget before mentioning it to me. The first real test came when Mom decided to host a summer lunch. She called and said, I'm inviting 12 people. Sounds nice. I found a restaurant that can do the food. Good. There was a pause where she would once have asked me to order it. Instead, she said, Your father and I are paying the deposit tomorrow. I attended the lunch as a guest. There were 13 people because Dad invited someone late. Mom called the restaurant herself and paid for the extra meal. Nobody asked for my card. The second test came when Nicole learned I was going. She told Mom she wouldn't attend if I refused to clear up the gala story. Mom called me, but not to pressure me. I told her we weren't asking you to do that, she said. What did she say? That I was choosing you. And what did you say? That I was choosing the truth. Nicole didn't come. Mom didn't spend the lunch apologizing for her absence. That was the first time I believed my parents understood limited contact wasn't a pause before everything returned to normal. It was the new condition of knowing me. Christopher tried to contact me once more. He mailed a letter to my apartment. I opened it because there were still a few wedding receipts to close. There was no new information. He said Nicole had made him feel understood. He said he had been afraid of becoming secondary in our marriage. He said he knew helping her accuse me had made that fear come true. I kept the receipt page and shredded the letter. The fear underneath his choice didn't change the choice. By autumn, the wedding date passed. I worked that day. Afterward, I bought dinner from the Thai restaurant Christopher and I used to like. I ate at my kitchen table and left my phone in another room. Mom sent one message, thinking of you. No need to answer. I didn't answer that night. I called her the next afternoon. The conversation lasted 12 minutes. She asked how I was. She didn't mention Nicole. She didn't ask whether I was ready to forgive anyone. We talked about Dad trying to cook rice without reading the package. It was ordinary. That was what I had wanted from my family for years, but I had confused ordinary belonging with constant usefulness. I thought being needed meant I was secure. It only meant everyone knew where to send the next problem. Respect looked quieter. It looked like a parent making a phone call before calling me. It looked like an invitation without an assignment. It looked like hearing no and leaving the answer alone. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from. There was one thing I did before driving away from the hotel that Sunday. I had put my suitcase in the trunk when I remembered the printed contract in the ballroom office. I went back through the lobby. The ballroom was empty except for my parents and the coordinator. Dad was carrying the last box toward the service door. Mom was checking under tables for anything left behind. Neither of them called me over. The coordinator handed me my printed copy of the banquet agreement. The separate authorization page was still blank. "You can keep this," she said. I returned to the desk by the ballroom windows. The river moved behind the glass. Staff members folded the final tablecloth and rolled the service card away. I placed the blank page on the desk. Then I closed the banquet contract over the receipts. Mom saw me from across the room. She didn't ask me to carry anything. She didn't ask what the paper meant. She picked up her box and followed Dad through the ballroom doors. I left my unsigned authorization beside the closed contract folder and stepped onto the riverfront terrace while the ballroom doors shut behind me.